ありがとうございます。
How's it going, everyone? I'm Kyle from Fantasy Forge Studios, and we are back with some Adventures of Middle-earth, our D&D 5e campaign set in the world of Middle-earth, taking place between the years of The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. We are in for a doozy today, as we are finally making our way to the Folk-moot of Roscabel. The group have pretty much completed all their fellowship phase undertakings, and they have made their way down south to Roscabel to meet with all of the woodmen leaders and settlement owners, I guess. But without further ado, we're going to go ahead and introduce each one of our players that will be participating, and we are very fortunate to have everybody joining us tonight. So let's go ahead and start with Valineth.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to session 30. I can't believe it's already 30 sessions into this. But my name is Dain, or Forge, here at Fantasy Forge Studios, and I play the character Valineth. He is the son of Morbith. He is a Rivendell elf, and he is a scholar. So his most powerful weapon is the mind and learning, and really good puns. But aside from that, he's been doing a lot of studying recently about the woodmen and their entire culture. So we'll see if that comes in handy at all, comes in handy at all here in this situation. So
Yeah, absolutely. Our next character is Theodric.
Hey everybody, I'm that Tubby Australian. I play our dashing and rage-filled slayer, Theodric Grimborn. He's learning a lot about his ancestry right now with the help of Valineth and Engelmar, and he's pretty excited to be heading into Roscabel to hopefully meet with Lord Heartfast.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of things, especially with Theodric's story, are starting to come into fruition here. So that's
the
exciting.
dreamy Dreamwalker, if we can.
The Dreamwalker. Yes.
The dreamy Dreamwalker.
The dreamy Dreamwalker. I love it. That's so good. Instead of Theodric the Grimborn, it's Theodric the dreamy Dreamwalker. He just
His
evolved.
long, flowing blonde hair, and he's kind of like a young Fabio.
I love it.
Sure,
Hopefully, a bird doesn't fly into your face and break your nose. Our next character is Jess.
Hello, I am a Spider-Fan 33 in Switch chat, or I play Jess Mindsackle Baggins, whose greatest weapon is magical rocks.
Magical rocks?
Yeah, so anyway, she's a hobbit, and she's up for a little bit of adventure. Having a good time.
having a good time, discovering what it means to have sticky fingers, and also inquiring about it, and not being completely dishonest about the things that she does. So it's very interesting to see Jess do her thing.
I mean, I don't know who she is either, so don't look at me.
We're building it together. It's a beautiful thing.
She's
Yeah.
still growing into the woman she'll become.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, literally, she's not 33 yet, so.
It's a good
Oh
point.
my god, she's a child. What?
Not as child as technically Theodric is.
Yeah, but he's a human. It's different.
What
And
is that?
finally-
hobbits are just big babies until they become like 80 years old, and then they're not babies anymore.
And then they're just short old people.
Yep.
I mean, in my experience, they're even more babies.
There you go. There you go. They need their diapers changed. It's great. Fedor, that's our last character.
Here he is coming in for the roast at the very end. I am a Lavacrus in the chat, or Lavacrus in the chat. I play Fëanor, the Mirkwood Slayer. I am hoping this session I don't fight one of my party members or go run off into the woods and die. That does seem to happen more often than it probably should.
I should hope not.
Yeah, I hope
At
this is
the
a,
Folk-moot.
I hope that there's a lot of conversation that happens. If I enter combat, it's going to not. I've been thinking about that. I'm like, I could have died in our downtime. like,
Oh,
but
such are the
yes,
dangers of being a wanderer in the rural places of Middle Earth. That happens.
But Fëanor is hoping that at this Folk-moot, he'll be able to persuade some of the leaders, perhaps arrange more alliances, and perhaps have more of a trained up kind of almost standing army for this lands.
Perfect.
But, yeah, that's his goal. Hopefully it works. He got a lot of fish last session, so maybe he can bribe some people with that.
True that. True that.
Hey, King
Are we
Huffa's,
working
would
with
you like a
dolphins?
fish?
What are they, a bear? I found that out in Baldur's Gate today. It's like apparently if you just throw a fish on the ground, a bear will be like, oh, I'll go chase after that and get off the elevator. So that's fun. And with that, I am Kyle. I am the lore master, helping to weave these players' narrative as they make an impact here on Middle Earth, but also here to play with them and against them, depending on their choices. But it has been a pleasure thus far, 30 sessions, more if you count session zeros, learning these adventures. As Jess mentioned, that every character is evolving daily, it seems like, and week by week I get to know them a little bit more, and I'm always surprised a little bit by the things that people do, and also I don't know, it's just a joy. So thank you all for being such good players. But let's go ahead and jump into a little bit of recap before we get things going with today's session. And so the past couple of sessions, the party has been in their fellowship phase, and the fellowship phase in Adventures in Middle Earth is all the preparation that they need in their downtime, as all heroes need rest before starting another grand adventure. Towards the beginning of that fellowship phase, they found refuge in Woodman Town, or Woodman Hall, and they got to know the people there. They met Ingolmer, and ultimately found out that there was a meeting amongst the Woodman leaders called the Folk-moot, and they were invited as special guests by Ingolmer as well to be able to attend that. And so towards the end of the summer, the party made their way down south. Party speaking of Valineth, Theodric, and Jess. As during the early months of the summer, Fëanor made his way to many of the Woodman establishments, settlements within the eastern eaves of Mirkwood, where he visited Gaelavira Rowanhold, where he also went down to the Black Tarn to visit Ameliota. And he did eventually make his way up to Woodman Town, but unfortunately, it seemed like people had left to already go to the Folk-moot, and so he didn't spend too much time there, but he made his way down to Roscabel, as it were. But the group making their way downtown, walking fast, faces past, they're, Roscabel bound. But no, they're joined by Ingolmer, and upon their casual saunter, they were making camp one night where they discovered a, well, at least Jess discovered kind of a soft breathing, to which, upon further investigation, she noticed that there was a man, a woodman, who was unconscious, barely kept alive, and upon interaction with this said individual, he shoved a piece of parchment into her arms, which essentially read something that there are orcs at Fenbridge, and that is a problem. And so, calling over Valineth, going straight to work, they were very soon set upon by a group of soldiers that are armed with horse and woodman warhounds, that were tracking a man, which they later found out was this man Baron, who was a spy of Radagast himself, and that he had taken something from their master Mogdred, what is the tower called? Oh,
It is called
Tyrant's Hill.
There we go.
Lord Mogdred of Tyrant's Hill. And so they were searching. They investigated Theodric specifically and Ingolmer, and with some kind of chatter back and forth, they realized that this woman who was leading these guards, she, by the name of, I should be more prepared. Does anyone have her name off the
Dagmar.
Yeah, Dagmar. This woman by the name of Dagmar seems very duty-driven, but is trying to hunt very fast for her Lord Mogdred to find this prisoner that has escaped. And they went away, not without some passing glances by Theodric and some sweet intimidation factors there, made their way up the path and disappeared into the distance. This man, Baron, still unconscious, they recognized him as the spy to Radagast, and they do plan on taking him to Roscabel, I'm assuming, to where they are going to hand him back over to Radagast, I'm assuming. But he is still unconscious, and that is where we left our session off last week. Today, we are going to begin starting off with Feanor. So Feanor had pretty soon left Woodman Town in order to make his way down to Roscabel. Actually, a settlement he has never been to before, but one that you're pretty curious to check out. This is rumored to be the great home of Radagast the Brown. And there are all kinds of tales and legends that surround this place, but it is a woodman settlement, and the last that you need to visit in your kind of in your arrangement with everybody from all the leaders. And so you have spent a couple of days making your way to Roscabel, probably within 4 days before the party actually does arrive and join you there. So you have a little bit of time to spend there to do your thing. But it's actually a pretty easy road from Woodman Town to this. There's a very solid trail that connects the two settlements. And you casually make your way down there to be revealed to kind of a similar site where you saw with this similar thing to Woodman Town and Woodland Hall. There's a large palisade that surrounds this settlement as well. But I'm going to have you make a investigation check for me.
An 18.
And with that 18, you realize that immediately this is different. In fact, you notice that there's kind of this almost a living feeling to this palisade. At first glance, it just looks like a giant hedge, to be honest. And this is a hedge that you think deep into kind of like the annals of language, and you think Roscabel, 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 and you realize, oh, that actually is just a word for brown hay. And that's exactly what this looks like. The entire settlement is surrounded by this wall of brown hay. But as you had mentioned, as I had mentioned, there seems to be this kind of living quality to it. Around the west side, you can see that it's primarily a giant earthen bank that separates it, but from the north, south, and west or east of the settlement, it is this giant brown hay hedge that stands probably about 12 to 15 feet high. You don't see any soldiers or guards or warriors standing on top of this palisade, and all seems peaceful. Especially as you make your way, you arrive along the western side of it, and so you have to walk around the front in order to find the gate. But as you walk, I'm going to have you make a perception check for me.
Sure. Can I also be seeing what Nim's response to being near this stuff is? Like, being near it, like if he's reacting at all, if he's like calmed down, if he's like sniffing away at it. I got 13.
13.
Perception.
Nim, he actually seems almost tempted to eat of it. But as you make your way close to kind of investigate, he's sniffing, doing his thing. As he reaches out, something immediately spooks him, and he steps back a couple feet. Not terrified, but this does not seem like something that he actively wants to eat anymore. Yeah.
All right, bud. Let's leave it how it is. Don't think that's a normal bush.
And indeed, it is not. As you wander around towards the western edge of this settlement, and it's decently large, definitely not quite the size of Woodman Town or even Woodland Hall, you notice that there are actually a few people. There are caravans that are set up on the side. It seems like, for whatever reason, people are not being admitted inside Roscabel. But these are woodman caravans that you see. They look to be either setting up shop or gathering for some reason. From what you could probably assume is because of the Folk-moot, but you have no way of knowing.
Is from what I can see from like these carts and stuff, because I've been traveling around for a little while. Are there does there seem to be like anyone from like the Black Tarn or any people that I like would recognize from my time and my journeys over these past like couple months?
In regards to fishermen's huts and anything of the kind, you don't see any. The one thing that you've discovered about the Black Tarn is there are people that are very dedicated to their land, and Ameliota would have confessed to you that she would have gone to Roscabel with a very small entourage of probably personal guards or people of importance that she wants to surround herself with. Probably it's not very likely people from the Black Tarn would be coming to it as far as the general populace is concerned. For Rowanhold, perhaps, but it's kind of difficult to tell one kind of cart from another unless you see anybody specific, and you haven't seen anybody specifically that you know, but they do look to be a mixture of merchants and people that are there with purpose. They don't just seem to be people just sitting on the side of the road like taking a rest from travel. They seem to be there for a purpose.
Yeah, you said it seems like they're not allowing admittance, so they all just like lined up on the road.
They're lined up on the
More or
side of the
less.
road, and they look like they're hunkered down. And so they don't look like they're waiting for entry, but they are, yeah.
Fanor's going to approach the gate then and see what's going on. You know.
You do so. This is something unlike you have ever seen before. Instead of a classic gate made of wood that would maybe connect this palisade, you see a large, almost circular gate, and engraved on the front is a large face on this gate. You don't see any handles or anything that would open, and you don't see any sort of like mechanism to be able to like draw it up. It seems like it's built into the facade of this brown hay wall.
What kind of wood does it seem to be made of?
I'm gonna have you make a nature check for me.
A 19.
This is olive wood.
Is that very like common in the area that we're in, or is
Not at
this? Okay.
This is actually more common up in northern Mirkwood.
So more around where I would have been.
Mhm.
Okay. Does it hold any particular properties as like being a bendier wood or more sturdy, like, and like anything that Feanor would like know about this wood other than just like it's wood
It tends to be
as
very
a wood, right?
it tends to be very oily. And because of that, it doesn't dry out and it lends itself to very high durability. And so this is very much meant to be a gate to defend whatever's within inside, hence the city of Roscabel. Um, but again, it's very strange. You don't understand right away how this opens or what purpose it serves. It clearly looks like a gate, but you have no idea how this thing actually functions.
Um, he wants to reach out to touch it, like
Okay.
to like almost like looking up at the gate and like reaching out and like running a hand.
Mhm. As you reach out to touch it, I am going to have you make a shadow lore check for me.
A 6.
6. You reach out, and as if just without any kind of care for the world, this is something that's very interesting to you. And so you run your hands along the wood, along the grooves of the very bottom lip of this mouth, and this doesn't seem like a carving that anybody would have taken a knife to and carved. It seems almost naturally formed into the wood. But as you do so, you can feel almost a small quiver, as if the lip itself is moving.
Feanor's gonna look at his hand. That was weird. And he's going to ride away from the gate, and he's going to go just pretty much talk to the merchants, see what kind of stuff they're doing, see like how long they've been waiting out here, and more or less just have like general chit chat with people. And because there's so many people around, he's making it very clear that Nim is with him, so that like any potential hunters or tradesmen or anything who might be operating in the area don't go hunting this white stag.
For sure. You can make either a persuasion check or a performance check for me.
A 0.
0. Just total 0?
Yeah, 0. I got a nat 1, which became a 0.
The way that people are looking at you is actually rather askance. You wander kind of through the different stalls and settlements. You don't recognize anybody that you know. In fact, they look at you like, what is an elf doing here now? And especially the fact that you have this stag. You're making it very clear that this is not something for hunting. But no matter how much you try to convince the people that are there why you're there, it's still beyond them. They don't trust your words that Ingolmer has invited you. They look to you with suspicion.
If that's the case, Feanor's probably going to kind of like looking back at the city at Roscabel. He's probably going to ride off into like the immediate wood that's around it and give more of a look at what's going on in the place around Roscabel instead of what's going on within.
Mhm.
And tell a lot by how a city is run, by how the land around it's faring.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
you go off into the woods, and as you wander around and investigate for a time, you realize that this wood is thriving. I'm going to have you make a nature check for me.
11.
11. Not only is it thriving, but you see an abundance of new vegetation growing. You can see remnants on the trees where it's quite interesting, where there's periods in the growth of these trees where there's almost kind of like this graying of it, as if the forest around was dying at some point, but as if magically fixed. New growth has come off of it, and so like most of the trees have this kind of like death around it. And so you can kind of assume that at some point this forest was heavily blighted. And it is within recent years that it has begun to thrive and bring growth. You see that there are a number of creatures, beasts of the forest, small ones to even large ones. Herds of deer are around. They seem to be almost flocking to this area from what you can assume is safety. I'm going to have you make a tradition check for me.
A 12.
Safety because of Radagast. You know enough about the Brown Wizard to know what powers he has, or at least is rumored to have, and his relationship with the forest. And so, not only is this thriving, but it seems the source of the thriving power is coming from within Roscabel.
Okay. Seeing this, like Feanor's not going to hunt or anything like that. He's just kind of perusing around the land, kind of getting a feel for it. But he will stop to pick up some like small root vegetables and stuff that he like finds in the undergrowth and
And you
things
don't
like
have
that.
an issue with that, actually.
Yeah.
As you wander, it seems like within a stone's throw from one spot to another, there's an assortment of mushrooms. There's an assortment of like carrots, potatoes, broccoli, cucumbers, as if this is almost a garden in itself. The nature that's around doesn't seem frightened of you. Some of it actually even approaches you and Nim out of curiosity. They're not timid at all, as if there is this kind of overbearing sense of safety that's within this area. You feel quite cozy and comfortable here.
Yeah, crunching on a carrot, he'll like throw the ends of it to like whatever's like nearby, and he's just gonna be like in his like pack more or less, just collecting like mushroom stuff to make like a decent like vegetable like stew or
Mhm.
something. And that's probably what he's gonna eat tonight. Take some water from the river,
Mhm.
set up, do some of that stuff. But yeah, after doing some wandering around, he's gonna let Nim wander for probably the next couple of hours, and then he's gonna head back to the gate, and he's gonna camp like near there to
Okay.
wait for the door to open.
For the next couple of days, as you wait for the party to arrive, is there anything specifically, kind of specific task that you want to accomplish here at Roscabel? Do you want to attempt to enter Roscabel? Do you want to pay more attention to the people who are coming here? Do you want to explore the area a little bit more? Is there anything specifically that you want to do?
The gate is still closed
It
at
is
this
still
point.
closed, and
No
you have
one's.
not seen it open, at least for this day that you've been here.
Fans probably gonna spend more attention on who's arriving, who's like coming and going,
Mhm.
like that kind of thing. See what kind of traders and potentially show up because he is still keeping an eye out for that specific armor that he's looking for. But yeah, more or less just like observing what's going on, learning perhaps a little bit more about these specific woodmen.
Mhm.
Um, and learn a little bit more about what they like down here in Roscabel.
Make a perception check for me.
An 11.
11. As you watch the more and more people come in, and by the day, it doubles in the amount of people that are actually here. And as you kind of reach more towards the latter days of waiting, as the final day of July uh, comes, you've noticed that it's not just woodmen at this point that have come. You haven't noticed any elves. You haven't noticed any dwarves, but you do recognize a couple of sigils. One being from Dale, and about 2 or 3 being from Esgaroth. One of which is actually Baldur and Belgo.
Excellent. The standards from Dale. It's just like they were just like merchants. They weren't like
Yeah, just merchants.
yeah. Just double checking. Um. Okay. But yeah, no. Seeing Belgo and Baldur again, he's probably gonna like he's gonna attempt to sneak up behind
Okay.
him.
Make a stealth check for me.
In the forest. 17.
17. You do skillfully. You sneak up
What took
behind.
you so long to get all the way down here?
Whew!
God, I've been waiting forever.
Goodness me! And they turn around, and Baldur, he sees you kind of peering from the woods, and just, my friend, you're a sight for sore eyes. Well, your
Yes, no, it's
friends were on
good
their
to
way
see you.
last we checked, and they should be here any moment now. But Belgo, where are you? And I'm gonna have you make a perception check for me.
Oh God, he's grown 2 feet taller since I last saw him. Oh, it's horrible. Nah,
In
yeah,
2
12.
months. At 12.
Yeah.
You hear something coming from the forest, and you can just barely see a small young boy sneaking through the wood, as if to perhaps surprise you.
I don't do anything. I'm like, Baldur, why didn't you bring Belgo with you? Did you leave him back at Woodman, Woodman Hall?
No, I didn't. He should be here. That boy's always getting off into trouble. And he's looking around.
Perhaps he's off tending to the ponies again.
And within a moment, you go, boo! And you see Belgo. He grasps onto your leg and like bear hugs it. The very familiar Belgo greeting, without as he
Fëanor
hasn't seen
goes,
you for a while.
Fëanor goes, oh no, I'm scared. You really surprised me.
And he
You're
begins kind of
improving.
like wrestling as if to like show you his strength, and kind of gritting his teeth and growling like, why did you leave? You said you wouldn't leave. And he's just like basically grappled onto your leg, but he's smiling the whole time. He doesn't seem to be holding any resentment.
I just ruffle his head and be like, so did you get much business done in Woodman Hall, Baldur?
Oh yeah.
Was it worth the haul?
Duh. We actually, this is the best haul yet, don't you think? And Baldur, he laughs and says, indeed. Well, with the stuff that we were able to sell, and even some of the stuff that, well, our elven companions left us with, we pretty much were able to sell full out. One of the reasons that we're here is so we can actually purchase supplies for the road. You know, we always tend to leave around this time, making our way back through Mirkwood before the winter sets in, and we find that fall time is a nice, comfortable time to travel. But we have been able to find some guards to help us find our way, actually, through the East Bight. Are you familiar?
No.
Make a wisdom check for me.
14.
14. You've never been through the East Bight, but you know that it's close. The East Bight, from your understanding, is the narrowest part of the forest. If you look here at essentially the map that we have up here, where you are currently at right now is Roskabel. If you make your way through the narrows of the forest, you can make your way into the East Bight, and then up through into the Dalelands all the way to Esgaroth this way. In the past, this has been an area that has been completely consumed by shadow. And Fëanor, throughout the entirety of your life, you have been warned never to go through this area, never to go through this direction, as there is an evil that was in the south. This is just somewhere that, well, Roskabel has been clearly a bulwark against the shadow that has dwelled within the south of Mirkwood. And this passage has been closed for a decent amount of time. But it's news to you that this is actually reopened.
Last I heard, Baldur, that was a very unfortunate place to find oneself. Is the passage through there truly safe? I know that our journey on the elf path wasn't particularly cheery, but is it really worth going through such a dark place?
I understand what you're saying, Fëanor. And I would be remiss if I didn't say that this has been something that has been weighing heavy on me for a time. It seems there's no true safe path through Mirkwood or around Mirkwood. If we make our way all the way up north through the Narrows, well, if we make our way to the Grey Mountain passes there, I hear it's crawling with orcs, and as what the wayward elves were telling, wicked men too. New king up there, supposedly. But if we make our way down to the south, that brings us dangerously close to where the necromancer used to be. Well, while we were spending some time at the Woodland Hall, we ran into, and he gestures over actually to the Dale caravan. We ran into some traders from Dale, and they're equipped with some soldiers, and rumor has it they actually came through here through the East Bight. They said that the people there, the people of the East Bight, are rebuilding, and they seem to have made safe, at least to a degree, the passage there. And so now that I know that the people from Dale have been safe making it through southern Mirkwood, I figure Belgo and I might as well try. And we are much stronger being with you, don't you think?
Yes, I'm not sure what my companions and I are planning to do after this, but I was actually going to suggest perhaps that you head back with the Dale caravan, at least most of the way that it can take you.
Great minds think
But-
alike.
But yes, I suppose on my way down here, I did pass through the Black Tarn, and that place, which also was once very heavy in shadow, does seem to be recovering. So it's almost comforting to know that the woods are starting to bounce back, at least a little bit, from this darkness that's been upon.
Indeed. Indeed. In fact, our caravan members over there, they even told me stories about the southern Mirkwood. It used to be so wicked and evil, a place of haunting spiders, and of course we shared all of our experiences with them. Well, most of them, of course. But we shared our experiences with spiders, with elves, with, well, just the way that Mirkwood weighs heavy on you. They said that that was not their experience at all, so it does give me courage, at least to a degree, to at least attempt the voyage back. In fact, as Groth is our home after all, and Belgo and I must be, well, at least we want to hunker ourselves down there for the winter, and spend some time with our friends, and whatever family members we have left there.
But enough talk of that. It's good to see you both. I haven't really been able to get much conversation from any of the merchants here. They all seem quite bewildered to see an elf here. So I actually don't know what we're waiting for. I'm assuming we're waiting for the day of the Folk-moot for the door to open. Have you been here before? This is a strange land to me.
In fact, I have. I've never been to a Folk-moot per se, but I have made my way down to Roskabel. And it's very... Well, let's just say the city is very finicky about allowing people in. Unless you have strict news from Radagast himself, unless you have strict orders from any of the woodman settlements, it's difficult to gain entry, and I can imagine why, as I'm sure this is a place of great power. In fact, they have Radagast here. And, well, for some time it has repelled evil. But I've never been inside, set foot inside Roskabel itself. It's quite a mystery. But while everybody's waiting here, I can only assume it is for the Folk-moot. The Folk-moot actually doesn't take place inside the city, you see. There's actually, and he points up kind of a little bit further, like northeast of the direction that the gate is at. Up there's actually a hill that makes its way above the tree line. And everybody gathers there, well, at least all the leaders gather there. And it is there where, well, talk of commerce is done, and all kinds of things concerning the leaders here of the woodmen. But the reason I can assume that the rest of these folk are here is for the last bit of trade before the summer season ends. Well, it seems like not just us, but people from all over are here to at least trade the rest of their wares before they start making their way home for the winter. And I will say that I'm assuming we can do a fair bit of business. Again, as I had mentioned, we need to restock on supplies, but whatever we do have left, I'm more than happy to get rid of. But I'm just assuming that that would be the case, but I don't think that the Folk-moot has a reputation of gathering caravans of people to trade. Maybe it's just because it's safe here. I have no idea. No way of knowing.
Well, let's get your caravan set up. Carriage set up. Let's brush down these ponies.
I appreciate it. And with that, we're going to go ahead and jump over to the rest of the crew. Valinith, Theodric, and Jess. You spend a good amount of the evening, the day before your arrival, which is where we last left off, contemplating what to do. The three of you, Ingolmer and Baron, the still unconscious Baron, are there, very fresh from your encounter with a Dagmar. What are your thoughts? What are your plans going forward?
Well, Valineth doesn't really pay two thoughts about it. He's more just concerned about the patient. He's concerned about this apparent spy of Radagast, and so he's not really going to contribute too much to that, because he has nothing to think about it. He just cares that this guy gets his health straight.
I'm gonna have you make a medicine check for me real quickly.
Medicine. I'm good at that, so hopefully it's a good roll. D&D Beyond's being real slow.
I should be able
As
to
it
help
does.
you.
Yeah, absolutely. You can have
If-
advantage with this if Jess wants to help assist.
Thank you, Jess. I appreciate it. Because we deciphered that it was a spider sting, right?
You did.
Mhm.
That it was last session. So, sorry, medicine. Sorry, I don't know why it's taking so long to do medicine. Boom. Well, I'm glad I had advantage. Thank you.
That's what it's for.
That was way better. 22.
Very good.
That's way better. As you go about, kind of almost again teacherly, telling Jess what to do, she actually notices that within this spider wound there is this kind of like ooze, almost like pustulous kind of residue that is coming from the wound that you overlooked, as it's very small traces. And with this information, actually, Valinith, from everything that you're gathered based on how deep the wound, how old the wound is, and whatnot, you can assume that at this state, with kind of the oozing, you helped out. What is her name? Cranthiel, with all the spider wounds of the elves in Mirkwood. This man was stung probably close to 10-ish days ago, and he seemed to be on the run with everything but will pushing him forward. He, upon finding him and him on the ground without any treatment that you were able to provide him, which you have already done, so he's stable, he was probably a solid hours, if not a day, from perishing.
Wow, this man is made of tough stuff. I don't know if I've ever seen anyone last 10 days with a wound this grievous. Talking to Jessivine.
Do you interact much with farmers?
Farmers? Can't say I do. I interact with all kinds of people, but I don't typically ask their job. Why do you ask?
My nan said that farmers were always the worst people to care for, because whenever anything was wrong, they just ignored it because the harvest needs to be brought in.
Hardworking people, salt of the earth, people like to say, or at least my people say. Maybe this man
Seven
was
fools,
that.
my nan called them, but she mentioned their tenacity to me several times.
What do you think, though, Jess?
About
about these farmers, you say? Your nan has many a words to think, but what are your thoughts about?
Well, the first lesson I was taught was how to ask for help when I was not able to. I think. No, my nana parents are usually right. They seem stubborn fools who don't know when their own strength isn't enough.
I think we all fall into that category from time to time. But wise words from you, Jess. And maybe this man is a farmer. When he wakes up, maybe we'll have to ask him.
No, I think he's much more tough than that.
Oh, indeed, indeed. I don't know if a farmer could survive a spider bite like this, or a
Well, a
spider
farmer
sting
when it
like
leaves
this.
their farm, the harvest needs to be brought in after all.
That is true. That is true. And Valineth continues to look over the man, and I guess at this point we're on our move. We're on the move, right?
I don't know. Are you? So this is still
Yeah.
evening. You guys
Okay.
packing up and moving?
Yes. I would very much be in favor of that.
Yeah.
Just like lashing together a makeshift stretcher or something for this guy to be pulled along by Broderick.
Theodric, do you mind helping us out with this?
Of course. Yes, I think we should get a move on. They might come back, and I'm not really sure how convincing we were when we said we didn't know about anything.
Speaking
Well, it
of which,
doesn't
I
matter.
miss.
Bloodhounds will pick up his scent. Can I try and find like some smelly herbs or plants to try and
Yeah, absolutely.
like,
Go ahead, and you
throw-
can either make
yeah.
a survival or a medicine check for me.
Okay. It's probably gonna be I choose medicine, it's gonna be that is a 3.
Nice.
You scour around, and
Very good.
most everything that's here looks to be weeds, and this is a very well-traveled area, so anything that you're looking for really quickly either probably has been picked or destroyed from the travel. So, unfortunately, you're not able to find much to be able to mask your scent.
That's right.
Theodric, by the way, what happened? I wasn't really paying attention. I just knew that I heard dogs and some
Yes.
lady's voice.
Apparently, our friend here is an escaped criminal, but there was something about the people chasing him that put me ill at ease. And the fact that this man is apparently a spy for Radagast, that concerns me greatly that these people are after him.
If he is a criminal, we should take him back to Radagast, and then his accusers can find him there and stand him up in, a court of some sort of law.
Yeah,
I don't know how you do that here, but
the thing that concerns me, and in Golmer, he actually kind of raises his voice. I'm not completely sure that. Well, first of all, Baron is not a criminal. I've known him for many a year, and yes, he gets himself tangled into maybe some nasty situations, but Radagast doesn't send him on errands to do nefarious things to people. First impressions, I just saw Dagmar as someone who's very loyal to her master, this Lord of Tyrant's Hill. But
yes,
she never mentioned anything about. I don't know what your thoughts are, Theodric, but I don't know if Baron is actually the man that she was looking for. Those hounds seemed keen on a trail, and with him just being mere meters away, tucked behind a rock, you would think that they would pick up on that. Perhaps they're hunting someone different.
Well, here's
Well,
hoping. But yes, I have to agree that Radagast wouldn't really trust a criminal with such important tasks. And something, I don't know, hunting criminals across other people's land. And also, she was rather tight-lipped about his actual crimes, wasn't she?
Well,
She just claimed that he had stolen something of importance, and
she was rather vague, and I think we didn't do a great job about asking or inquiring too much. But I will say, Baron, well, why would he, if he was running from the direction of Tyrant's Hill, why would he be north of Roscabel? Tyrant's Hill is far to the south.
I will say, I think I think cooler heads prevail in such things, and I don't think we should rush to any specific judgment. I do believe this should be brought up at the Folk-moot. Um, this specific, obviously, we're bringing him along with us, and so he can tell us his side of the story for sure. But I think this is something that everyone should be aware of, at the very least, and especially this Tyrant's Hill. I know in Golmer you said that you had no idea anyone was there. Maybe other people have information about such things, about Tyrant's Hill and the ongoings there.
I do hope. There are a number of our settlements that are much further south, Roscabel being one, but also the Black Tarn. The Black Tarn is, well, some would say within the neighborhood of Tyrant's Hill, and I'm sure Emiliota would have anything to say about such a place. If there is activity, she would be aware of such thing.
but yes, we should definitely look after this fellow. Hopefully, reunite him with Radagast, and bring up this notice we found on him with
Yeah,
Radagast.
deliver the message. I agree, Theodric. So off we go. I guess make haste. I don't like this road. After that experience, I think we should try to get there as quick as possible.
Yes, I can't help but agree.
What say you, Jess?
is there another road?
We're just going to be hurrying along this road.
Oh, okay. Don't do hurrying a lot. This bag is very heavy. But yeah, I'll do my best.
Oh, don't worry,
Oh.
wee one. And in Golmer, he says, Madam, and he holds out his hand as if to assist you with anything that you need. He's trying to be gentlemanly, which looks awkward on
Okay.
him. But you
Yeah.
can tell it's coming from a place of like he's doing everything he can to try to help.
Oh, that's so sweet. And I hand him my bag, and it weighs a ton.
He noticeably as it kind of pulls him down to the ground, and he lifts it up onto his shoulder and says, "You are made of sturdier stuff than I thought, Jess."
Are you sure it's not too heavy for you?
I'm absolutely sure. And he as he readjusts it.
What? Be careful with it. It's got some.
Is that
very?
I mean, what is it? Is it full of rocks?
Feels like it.
There's some rocks in there. It's mostly the weight of my pots and pans.
Ah, that's what that is. Cast
Wrap them
iron,
all
I'm
up
assuming.
in, Dwarven make. They do make the best.
And you do make the best meals, I might add. But
Yeah.
off we go. If we make at a decent pace, we might be able to make our way to Roscabel by the morning.
Oh, that would be good. Yes, we don't want to be around here when she comes back with those dogs. Their bloodhounds are notoriously good trackers.
I'm gonna have you all make a stealth check for me.
Yes! I would love to. Thank you.
boy.
Also that one.
I would plus.
You're
six
the
on
only
stealth.
one, Jess.
Natural 20
Well, okay, you share
Booyah!
that
For a
with the
total
rest
of
us.
26.
Oh my gosh!
Okay, I got a 13. That's not horrible.
Especially considering
Valineth
you
got a
have
natural 20 for a total of a 22.
Doubles! Very nice. We're so stealthy, guys.
the events of what you had just witnessed have put you in this state of high alert and uncertainty. And as you begin to basically put out your fire and make way down the trail southwards, you're able to do so stealthily and swiftly, as if blending into the night. You're walking down the road, even with a horse and a makeshift makeshift stretcher in tow. You're able to go silently down the road without making much of a noise, as you all look nervously at each other for what is to come, or what this new Lord of Tyrants Hill has in store for, who they're chasing and why they're in the lands of the Woodmen. You make your way swiftly down, but because you weren't able to get a full rest, I'm going to have all of you make Constitution saving throws for me.
Oh,
You know it.
rough.
That's something I'm
That's
good at.
what I
24.
currently
yourself.
asleep, like,
15.
well, resting.
Okay, 15. Valinith,
17.
17. You're able to overcome the journey again, most likely because of the adrenaline. But you, as the morning begins to creep, you notice that there is a small opening in the canopy up above you, and where you had noticed previously, at least Theodric and Valinith, in northern Mirkwood, where no light seemed to shine through the leaves, you see this golden glow coming from the east, and it begins basically showing all kinds of kind of dancing lights, and something that you're actually rather familiar with, Jess, if you ventured out into the local woods around the Shire. Very similar. Every morning you are greeted by something like this. The birds are chirping. You notice an abundance of animals in the general vicinity, but you are brought face to face with what looks to be a large brown hay wall, basically supported by this large dirt clay structure. And here we are, folks. This is Roscabel. It's a little shabby, perhaps, but, Radagast keeps it quite safe. It's been here for longer than any of the Woodman settlements, even longer than Mountain Hall. Shall we? We need to make our way to the east in order to find our way and meet up with everybody. But let's say we have about 3 hours before the Folk-moot begins. Make sure you find me before we do venture off. It's not within the city. In fact, it's a little bit further east into the wood. But do enjoy yourself. Roscabel is a wonderful place. And you begin to make your way a little bit west. I'm going to have the 3 of you make perception checks for me.
Do we get to find Feanor?
We'll see how you roll.
Pretty good. 22.
22.
Sorry, I got 18.
Would you believe me if I told you I got another nat 20?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, wasting them all now.
I find you instantly.
As the 3 of you walk, you notice that there are a number of caravans, people that have lined up along the side of the road, which is, again, rather odd to you. But you notice that none of them are lined up along the side of the brown hay wall. In fact, as you investigate it, it looks to be as if it's twitching. Jess, you look closer and you could swear that you see what look to be snakes crawling within, but it's vines. This wall seems to be almost living and breathing, as if nature itself has come alive. Yeah, it's interesting. And Valinith, you notice this movement as well. Theodric, you do so to a less degree, but the one thing that you have taken much notice in is this actually spooks Baradorok quite a bit. As you walk past, he's and it just as he's just kind of starting to kind of slowly diagonally walk his way over to the far left side of the road, trying to stay as far away from this hedge as possible.
Okay. Can I do an animal handling check to, like, get him under control?
100%.
And could I pretty please have advantage because he's a warhorse and would be trained to chill?
Sure.
Hey.
This is something that's strange and weird. But...
Wow.
Like, yeah, okay, I guess.
I got messed up there, but that's only a 10.
10. You're able to calm him down to a degree, but as I had previously mentioned, it's a wondrous and strange sight. And this is something that Baradorok is very keen and aware of his surroundings. He's a very good warhorse, which is why this stands out. You are able to calm him and soothe him to the point where he's not on edge, but he doesn't want to be walking on the far right side of the road. He would prefer to either be in the middle or on the left.
Fair enough. I let him walk on the left-hand side of the road.
Perfect. And he does so. And he puts all of these other horses that are here to absolute shame as far as size goes. There are a number of them. A lot of these actually merchants have hand-drawn carts. And as you kind of slither your way up to the eastern side of this great hedge wall, you do notice familiar faces of, well, a very familiar cart, and the face of Baldur and Fëanor and Belgo putting together what look to be resources for some kind of departure.
Oh, I will say, Fëanor's hair over the last couple months has been getting a bit shaggier. It's not as tightly cropped as it was when we first met. So it's starting to grow out a little bit. So he does look a little bit different. Been a couple months since you've seen him.
Does Valnus see
An
this?
unmistakable elven face beneath a shaggy clusters of matted hair.
Valnus says, "Why, good to see you, Fëanor. I'm glad to see you've come to your senses and started growing that out. Looks great, my friend."
Growing what out?
And Valnus points to his moppy head of hair. "Yes, it's a little unkempt, but you're looking more elf-like by the day, my friend."
He just runs a hand like through his hair and like pushes it back, and he's like, "That'll do." But no, it's good to see you all. Baldur and Belgo told me that you were on your way. You'd left, and
Long
been
time
keeping
no
an eye out
see.
for when you.
Belgo's
Yes,
like waving.
yeah. You should see this one. He managed to sneak up on me in the woods.
Hey.
Yeah, I know, right? He gives a very pointed look at Jess. He's like, "You could learn a thing or two from this one."
Couldn't we all?
Yes. Well, in terms of people sneaking up on us in woods, I think we have something in common. And I'll look towards Valineth and Theodric.
Yes.
At this
perhaps,
point, you do notice that Baradorok is carrying what looks to be a stretcher. You can't see who's on it quite yet, but there's a stretcher. being
Who's the
dragged.
corpse?
Not a corpse, not yet.
Oh,
We
Wait,
so
wait.
so he's friendly.
I check his pulse. Yeah, not a corpse.
not a corpse. Excellent, thank you, Jess.
Well, I'm sorry to tell you, the gates are shut.
Yes, Anglemer told us that they should be open in, what was it, an hour or two, he said, I think?
I've been here for days. Like, no one could have told me this before I left.
Well, yes, I mean, yeah, that's a good point. But, no, our friend here, had a run-in with some spiders.
Oh.
Yeah.
Fëanor is gonna have a little walk around and go and like see look at the dude.
You notice that he looks very poisoned. You're used to spider stings and stuff, but again, this man looks like he's been stewing for a bit with a spider wound. The spider wound's been
he's
bandaged and
starting to
cut off,
smell.
but like you can see that like there's like a little bit of moisture that's begun to leak through the bandages. But yeah, he's got a pungent smell, and you know the other thing that you notice is he is clearly a woodman.
10 days he survived with this, I can deduce. Quite incredible indeed, I think.
By the Valar, that is impressive.
Yes.
I've known elves to succumb in that time.
Unfortunately, we couldn't give him our usual, well, Valineth's usual treatment, as we've had to be on the move quite quickly. I think we'll fill you in somewhere a bit less public.
Yes. Come to the side. We can tie up Roderick and get you all set up while we wait for the last couple hours.
And then Ingolmer, he makes his way over to you, Fëanor, and says, "Well, rumor has it that trouble follows you wherever you go, at least your group, and Well, might I say, I'm glad not too much trouble was able to befall upon this, but it is good to see you, friend. And
I put a
here
hand on
just
his
in
shoulder
time.
and say, I put a hand on his shoulder and said, "All the trouble went with me."
Hopefully you
No,
didn't
I'm
find
joking.
your...
I had a very pleasant journey.
Good,
Um,
good. Good. Wonderful
I
indeed.
am the trouble.
He looks at you. Just-
Actually,
is-
did you encounter anyone else on the road? I'm waiting for Gala Vera and Eliota to arrive, actually.
haven't seen any of them. Chances are, we had, Fridwald, he's been here for some time. Or he's been out on the road doing many a things, such as, delivering word to where word needs to be delivered to. That's a man who lives and breathes the road. But,
Hmm.
he's tends to be impatient too, so most likely he's already within the confines of Roskabel. Heartfast, I did notice, and he looks around to the rest of you. All of these woodmen look exactly the same. They look as if to be descendants from very much like the same families, from what you can tell. But in Golmer, he looks at like each of them like very individually, like, oh, looks like we have some people from Mountain Hall here. Haven't seen anyone from the Black Tarn yet. As he looks, oh, Rowanhold over here, and he just casually strolls over, and he's like everyone's just like, oh, in Golmer, it's very good to see you, and he's just like walking amongst all the stalls.
I'm
and
walking
just,
behind him, pointing at him, going, "See, I told you that I knew him."
oh yes, Feanor, have you met him? He's a wonderful lad. He actually helped Baldur out over there. He's got quite the story. And he's introducing you to all of these people, and all these people kind of look like suspicious, but it's being visibly relieved from their faces, like, oh,
Oh, thanks.
oh.
Not a crazy elf.
Maybe
Yeah,
it was
no,
the shaggy
so
look.
I say quietly to them, "No, I'm sorry to tell you, there is another elf here. He is quite deranged. We're going to keep an eye on him, and we're going to keep him away from the common folk. He hit his head as a child. He's quite. But if you see a tall elven man walking around, he's not really any danger. He's just a little bit."
This is one of them goes, this is turning out to be the strangest Folk-moot I've seen in quite some time. as you do so. Group, is there you have about an hour or two to do whatever you want amongst these stalls, people, before the Folk-moot does end up beginning. Do you want to navigate through? Do you want to investigate the gate at all? Do you want to search for anyone in particular? You could do one of these things.
I mostly want to get Baron. Baron settled somewhere safely for now. Maybe if Baldur and Belgo have somewhere, we can just tuck him away until we can get Radagast to come heal him or fix him or something. Until we can figure out what we're doing with Baron, we need to put him somewhere safe.
So where do you guys want? What do you guys want to do with him? That's the question.
I
I'll
tuck
keep
him
an eye
under
on
the
him.
cart, just under the back of it, so he's like, he's protected from the elements.
Just his feet are sticking out.
Time to wake up! Drags him out. But
Yeah.
no,
In all seriousness, I'll see if I can get him to like come out from consciousness in the next like couple hours. And if I can't do that, I'll just spend the time and make a meal.
I'm gonna have you first, Jess, make a medicine check for me. Valnith, if you want to assist in this, you may do so.
I will assist. That's something Valnith would do.
Have advantage.
You got this,
Perfect.
Jess.
With advantage. Roll. Hey, 15.
15. One of the things that you've learned from your time training in your healing ways, learning from your grandmother, is there's nothing that a good old-fashioned set of smelling salts can't help. Slowly, as you've noticed and you've been keeping track of him as you've progressed through the woods to here, and he's started to regain a bit of color. But he seems to be just hanging on the brink of unconsciousness. You pull out a small little bit of smelling salts, and you... Well, what do you want to do with these smelling salts?
What do you normally do with smelling salts?
You
You
shove
put
them
them
up
under
their
someone.
nose.
You crack
Yeah,
it, put it under
yeah,
someone's nose, and
Yeah.
it like forces their body awake, pretty much.
It's very potent.
Yeah. I'll just like get my hand like over his like breathing area to make sure like there's enough airflow going through to make sure that this is going to be effective.
For sure.
And
And you do so, and you notice that his breaths have become slightly less labored. With your
Okay.
medicine check, you're able to put your hands, and it's a very makeshift. So as Nick had mentioned, smelling salts typically are kind of like in like this like casing that you break, and it's just. This is something that of your own make. You've made like this paper casing around like these very potent herbs.
So
and whatnot.
yeah, I'd get like the actual rocks and sort of grind them either with my hands or a mortar and pestle to release that sort of scent.
Perfect. And so you do so. And immediately, everybody that's around, not even in the immediate vicinity, begins to, like, you're jolted as this overwhelming aroma begins to kind of flood the immediate area. Baradarok, and again, like, steps back, like, a few paces, but immediately you see these eyes open, and Baron, he looks to either side and says, "Who are you? Who are you? Who are you?" And as he just, like, looks back and forth.
Worry not, my friend.
He is speaking in the Woodman tongue.
Oh. Feanor knows that.
Feanor is slightly away from you.
Yeah,
talking
he's
with
off with
Ingolmer.
Ingolmer.
So you can come get me if you want, but like he is not.
Yeah, I'd
Good
call out
actor.
to you. Feanor, Ingolmer.
Well,
Do you
One of-
speak Westron?
Will one of
What? No.
Valineth's feats that he has is he can't necessarily speak anything, but he has a general understanding of language itself.
Mm-hmm.
So would this be something he'd be able to comprehend if that's the case?
You would be able to comprehend based off of his just body motions, and the Woodman tongue is very loosely related to the common speech.
Okay.
Dalish is more closely related to it, but the Woodman tongue is loosely related to it. And so with this heavy accent, you basically hear, "Oh, who are you? Who are you?" As he just like looks back and forth.
Okay, so they're just Scottish. Okay, it's not.
Heavy
It's not a
accent.
different language.
Just Scottish. It's Gaelic,
Scottish.
basically.
Yeah. And
Scotland,
Valineth is like
forever!
Valineth
Shame.
smiles at him and says, "Oh, good morning. It seems like you're doing well. You're welcome to the Folk-moot. I am Valineth. I'm the one who healed your grievous wound," and pats his stomach.
He looks up at you, Jess, and says, "Hobbit." And he at this point he's speaking in common. He's heard the common tongue, and so he's speaking in common. "Hobbit,
Yes.
where am I?" And you could tell that he's audibly like trying to get his bearings of like where he is. The sense of panic still clear.
I'll just like, if you'll let me, I will place a hand on like his, like sort of chest, shoulder area, just attempting to ground him.
Mhm.
Listen, you're safe. We're outside. Where are we outside? We're
Roscabel.
outside Roscabel. We're outside Roscabel. The wall's just over there. We found you wandering in the woods. Looks to be very hurt.
Make a persuasion check with a +2 modifier.
That's in addition to what I already have, right?
So it would be like
Excellent. I'm so good at persuasion, guys. I got I got another nat 20 for a total of 26.
Huh.
Jesus Christ.
Killing
Yeah.
it today.
Wow.
This is great.
Oh my God.
You like to see it.
Can you save these for actual important stuff, please?
No, this is important. This is important to me. Screw you guys.
He immediately, as you do so, you can feel that his, as you mention, Roskabel, as his like a heavy, and his fast, hard breathing immediately stops, and he puts his hand on yours and says, "Thank you. How'd you get me here?" And he tries to like sit up from his position. He's strapped a little bit as he makes his way down to try to unstrap. I've got news. And he searches like around in his basically his clothing too.
Isn't Goldburn near me?
He would be off by Feanor, so unless you called the two of them over, probably not.
Peace, friend.
I mean, I did call out to them, so.
Yeah, so we probably would be showing up about now.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Peace, friend. If you're looking for your message for Radagast, you forced that into my companion's hands here before you passed out.
Oh, he's awake. Hello there.
Ingolma, do you have the scrap of paper?
Indeed. Well met, young Baron. Seems like you've been in a bit of a rough spot as he digs through his kind of clothing and he hands the letter over. It seems like you're carrying some important information, and let's put that right back into the hands of you, and we'll get you all prepared to go right back to Radagast. How does that sound? And like very calmingly, as if just like two dudes just talking. They seem to know each other decently well. And he like is able to kind of gather himself and wobbly stand up, and he places his hand on his stomach and says, "How did you find me?"
You found us.
Did
We were camping. We heard someone. It sounded like they needed help, and there you were. In sore need.
Lucky for you, I rolled high on my medicine check. But
Oh,
all jokes
stop it.
aside, we were happy to be able to find you, my friend. What were you running from in particular?
He takes a look at the piece of paper and he like unfurls it and reads, I don't remember. And he puts his hand up and he sees this Radagast. He sent me to go investigate Doguldur. I was there, and you can see him. He's continuously reading the note over and over again, basically like orcs at Fenbridge. And there were orcs. I was able to hide from them, but there was a moment when all went dark. I didn't know what was going on. Whoever was my captor, they were speaking a language I couldn't understand. I was being led through muck. Eventually, after what seems like days of travel, days of walking, we stopped. I was laid down on stone. Still have my binds. What happened? I must have passed out at that moment. All I remember was waking up. And he, basically, he puts his hand to his head. I don't remember.
Hey. It's okay, you're safe now. You're among friends here. Let me get you something to eat. I'm gonna start cooking a meal.
Did Valnus sense any shadow coming off of this?
Make a Shadow Lore check. You start cooking, getting things together as he stands up
Yeah.
wobbling, gets his bearings as he touches the wound in his basically his stomach, and he just what happened?
Oh, easy now, easy now. That is a spider sting there. I'm surprised you made it as far as you did, my friend. That's gonna take some time to heal, with how old that wound is.
How long have I been? And he like feels like his face, and like his face has grown like stubble, and he begins to put his hand through his facial hair. Oh, that's right. Before every one of my missions, I make it a habit to shave just in case something like this happens. I can tell how much time has passed. 2 weeks?
Do these occurrences happen that often that you need to be aware of them?
Scarcely. But for occurrences such as this, well, I find myself lucky to be in good company, and more importantly, lucky to be alive. He kind of like removes the bandage a little bit, and he sees this kind of just a squelching wound. He like almost like he's gagging, like he's gonna throw up, and just like puts it back and just says, "I don't know what happened. My legs hurt." As he bends down to like massages, and like he sits down on the ground and begins massaging his feet. He just this man looks like he's been through hell and back.
Yeah.
Just straight up.
If there's a fire going, can I like get some warm, not hot, like warm rocks wrapped up in towels for him to use on his legs? Yeah.
By the way,
Thing is,
aside,
with Engolmer's help, you can use whatever fire you want. So you're able to gather what you need. Very
Nice.
Yes.
I was gonna say, aside, is Kalar still with us?
He's not.
Oh.
No, he went with
No, they're not with Boulder and Belgo.
yeah, Boulder and Belger.
Did you not make the journey with them down here?
I'm gonna have you make Theodric, Jess, and Valneth. I'm going to have you make a history check for me.
History.
History. I'm so good at that.
Oh, I'm apparently not today. That's
9.
a 5. Theodric, we're relying on you, buddy.
Don't. I got a 6.
I got a 9.
That's
I got the highest thing. Yeah, woo, I'm still winning.
Valineth, you've
Pretty-
spent the vast majority of your time at the Wood of Sild. Theodric, you have spread yourself so thin amongst the people that you hadn't had much of an opportunity to converse much with him. You did occasionally see him around, but not much chance to engage in conversation. However, Jess, you did actually. You met up with him a few times at the Wolf and Mead in the town just to kind of check on him to see how he was doing. Over the course of the couple of months, he started to regain bits and pieces of his memory. He started showing signs of becoming less timid, and the one thing he did remember was that Woodland Hall, at one point sometime in the distant past, was his home. He doesn't remember where, like how he got to the pits of Dol Guldur where he was, but the Woodland Hall was his home, and so he had spent essentially the latter part of the journey, but basically the rest there, reestablishing such. And so he was able to, with the help of Baldur and Belgo, purchase some land and to be able to get settled and have at least a small little humble house within the village that he has slowly, very slowly, begun to reintegrate himself into society to a degree. It's good to hear.
I'll take it. Nice.
Feels good.
I was just wondering aside because I know he was also a woodman who experienced Dol Guldur as well. So that's all.
Yes, it seems to have a that sort of effect on people.
But yeah, so sorry, I've blanked. My mind is blank.
We were
Well,
talking
Valineth,
talking to him. You seem to be fairly awake at the moment. We'll see what we can do to ease your pain, but Ngulma is like perhaps we should go look for merchants, perhaps for some medicine or something that will allow us to
Oh,
ease this pain.
Feanor, there's no need to pay for things. You can just go out and try and find some willow bark.
Valor rolls his eyes.
Well, actually, Valineth, you would have learned from Caranthial, willow bark is actually quite good for being a minor painkiller. Um, if you were paying attention, probably in your notes somewhere.
I don't think he's going to lean a little bit more than that, I think, my friend.
Yes, that was my thoughts too.
And you see him like kind of on the ground, and he begins kind of smelling the food that is being made, and says, "Well, first things first. I've been on the road for 2 weeks. Clearly, I have none of my rations with me. I don't know the last time that I had something in my belly. Hopefully, it doesn't
Yeah.
fall out of my belly."
Have a mushroom.
And he looks down and just kind of laughs a little bit. But
Fano
he-
crouches, pulls out a mushroom from his bag, and goes, "Here, have a
he ta-
mushroom."
he takes a look at it and he sniffs it. He's like, "Oh, this is a good one, in season." And he begins just munching on it. And he says, "Oh, that was good. So we're here at Rosgabel, right?
Have another.
Oh, and he very graciously takes the other one, at like mid conversation, and he munches down a little bit on it. You said this is the Folk-moot.
That's right.
Where's Master Radagast? He says, we must go tell him.
Inside?
If I have this note, I must give it to him. I was tasked with investigating, and he says, all these people. He says, pardon me. Could someone help me? As he like reaches up to like, he needs someone to help him walk. Essentially,
Fano grabs him because he's crouched right in front of him.
Theodric also grabs a hand as well.
if we could,
We kind of do that the one hand each to lift him up.
yeah.
There's
for
a
sure.
mushroom in my hand as I'm like offering it to him.
All of these mushrooms. He stands up, and he kind of hobbles on over to, basically casually walking towards the front gate. So Theodric and Feanor, you are with him as he does so. There actually aren't a ton of people gathered around the front entrance, as it's kind of an odd place. Honestly, like just strange place. And so you make your way over there, and you go up to the engraved doorway, and as per usual, Feanor, it is a shut face wooden doorway. And he says, he looks to both of you, and he kind of like coughs as if like for a little bit of some like space.
Oh,
Sure,
I mean,
if you can walk on your own, I guess. When he steps back, Fano says to Theodric, "I'm pretty sure that door's lip quivered at me the other day. It was quite strange. It felt like the wood was moving under my hands.
magic nonsense.
Probably at this point. I wouldn't be surprised. A wizard does live here.
I miss beating up bandits.
Yeah, that was fun. Which time?
I mean, the only
we're,
real
just,
time we did it.
we're just having like little chats while like this guy's off doing like his own
This
stuff.
guy, he limps over to the door, and you see him kind of press his like kind of like this, as if whispering something to the door. I'm gonna have both of you make perception checks for me.
12.
I got a 2.
Theodric, you
Theodric
are-
just thinks the
yes.
dude's crazy. Like that poison must have really done a number on him. Look at him.
He does look like he's about to fall over dead.
If it had lips, do you reckon he's trying to kiss it? Like,
Oh dear God, I hope not.
and the lips begin to pucker.
Ugh.
steamy.
No, he seems to whisper something, and you actually do notice Feanor. Um, the lips begin to visibly move, and an audible, guttural. And as he, with each chuckle, the mouth grows wider and wider and wider, and coming from that, the mouth begins to open, and a doorway and arch is revealed inside, and you can see what looks to be a settlement town of Roscabel in front of you, and he looks to either side and says, "What are you waiting for? I think I can make it in myself."
Oh,
Yeah, okay.
okay.
Let's go carry him, Theodric.
Yeah. Yep. Sure. Lock.
All the while he has this plated meal from Jess, still, and he's kind of eating away at it. He has both arms on you guys, but he's kind of just like eating just off of it from his mouth. But you walk your way in, and you automatically, the two of you, feel this sense. It's kind of like a tingling sensation as you go underneath the doorway, as if kind of like magnets were like pulling your hairs, kind of like static electricity or something. You have no idea, but you walk in, and it immediately.
That was weird.
The door behind you closes as you hear the familiar and the door shuts, and you find yourself in the middle of this city. It's decently expansive. It's not on a hill, but you can see at the far end of the town there looks to be a small grove, almost like a forest, and he points in the general direction, to Radagast's house. And you make your way hobbling along through.
Oh, while we're walking, Feanor's gonna look at him and go, "You do realize that was really weird, right? Like, you can acknowledge that. I know you might be from here, but like, a door that opens up laughing and made of wood, like, that's not a normal thing."
He looks to you and says, "Well, this is Radagast's home, of course. Yes, don't get me wrong. It did. Well, it was rather strange upon my coming here, but there are very few that are not residents of this town that are allowed in and out. During our time here, during Radagast's stay, it started off as actually that grove, and he kind of gestures over to the grove at the far side of the. To be honest, Radagast is a fleeting fellow, going from here to there, which is why he needed a little bit of help hiring me. I don't know if you know, but, I serve Master Radagast. I'm kind of his eyes and ears of the things that he isn't able to keep all of his eyes and ears on. And, we'll know if he's here or not, in a matter of time."
Theodric, you've met Radagast, haven't you?
Yes. I met him back at Dale.
Ah, you've met Lord Radagast. He's a
Yeah, lovely fellow.
lovely
Shared some
fellow,
drinks.
good employer,
Faint,
treats us well.
but covered in bird, duck, and whatnot.
Yeah,
But nice enough fellow.
nice enough indeed. I have been trying to
Let's
get
see
on
if
him
he's
about his cleanliness and his appearance to others. I understand that he is one of the wise that is here in Middle Earth, but well, if he has seen Gandalf, if he's seen Saruman, Galadriel, there are a number of wise wizards here that do take a little bit better care of themselves, I will say that. But that's neither here nor there. He's very skilled at the things that he does, and he winces. Oh, I think he can help me with my current problem. You wander through the village, and you see that there are a number of people that are all very visibly looking at you, surprised. They see Baron, and one of actually the people come running up to you. It's a kind of middle-aged woman, and she says, Baron, oh my goodness, what took you so long? I'm telling you, one of these days, Radagast is going to do you in. And she says, what's wrong? And Baron says, Ma, stop. As he kind of like pushes her off. I'm on very important business. You understand that? And clearly I'm still alive. But it's good to see you. And he gives her
Yeah,
he
not
gives
by
her a
much,
small kiss
though.
on the cheek, and says, Ma, I'll see you later. Just let me do my job. Yes, of course, dear. Go do your thing. By the way, Radagast hasn't been here in some time. Just thought I'd let you know that. As the three of you wander towards the grove, you stop dead in your tracks. He looks back. The two of you can leave me with Ma.
Yeah, that's probably for the best. You should rest up. I'm sure Radagast will be here for the Folk-moot. You know,
We'll see.
I guess wizards do tend to just wander in when you least expect them.
At least in our experience, from what we've been told.
Perhaps.
How do we get out of?
Do we tell it another knock knock joke?
Oh, no. In order to leave, you just simply need to stand at the entrance.
Oh.
It's getting in that's the hard part. But thank you, the two of you. The company you keep are good folk. I do owe you a lot, perhaps even my life. If there's anything that I can do for you in the future, just let me know. My name is Baron, and if you're looking for me, well, it's probably easier to find me than Radagast, but if you need anything from me, just let me know. I have a particular set of skills that make me valuable in certain sleuthing situations. If you need someone to go unseen, I'm your man.
We'll keep it in mind.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your offer. We're glad you're alive and okay.
And aren't we, me and my mom, we've got some catching up to do. And perhaps some wounds to heal further. And he kind of walks over and he takes like his mom takes his arm as he kind of continues eating from his plate and says, Ma, you need to learn to cook like this. There's this hobbit who, and he just begins to tell like this whole story, and he's like, no,
I need that plate back though.
Yeah, Feanor's looking. He's like, well, Theodric, I finally got to have a look around in here after waiting outside for many days. You know, the Folk-moot isn't even actually in Roscabel.
Yes, it's somewhere deeper in the woods. Engelmer told us. You know, you really should have kind of discussed this more with him before you left.
I should have asked more questions. Yeah, that's.
Did you notice
that's definitely on me.
The hedges on the outside move? It's like there's little snakes in them.
Snakes in them?
I don't know.
Fëanor wants to look at the hedges from the inside, like as we're walking up to the door.
You wander over and you take a few minutes of close inspection and investigation. There's a small little shutter in the outside kind of moss, but you're unable to see within the hay. You're unable to see within. In order to do so, you're going to have to reach out and brush aside some of the hay if you wish to do so.
Yeah, he does. Why not?
Make a sleight of hand check for me.
Oh, this just seems to be like perfectly normal.
I know. I wouldn't touch it. It's magic nonsense again.
An 18.
18. You're able to brush some of the hay aside, and you see what looks to be this elegantly woven contraption of vines that weave in and out that build the inside of this wall. And it is, in fact, slithering around and moving. Basically, it's this living wall that seems to be surrounding the city.
Oh, well, that's disturbing.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I believe you. It's not snakes, though. It just seems to be vines.
Magic nonsense. Okay.
Let's go find the others and tell them that Radagast isn't here.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll want to know.
Yeah.
Hopefully some more of my friends have shown up. Actually, Theodric, while I was away, and I just like start like casually chatting to him about what I was doing. I actually got some really good fish. It's probably a little old now, but
Probably. As you go to make your way out, the door does open for you. You stand there for a solid 3 seconds, and the you hear oh as the mouth opens wide, and you're able to make your way out. Valineth and Jess, what were you doing during their escapade into the city?
Valineth was inspecting the wall from the outside. Very curious hearing this laugh.
The gate or the wall?
I guess the wall, because that's what he noticed, right? The Slytherin of the wall.
The slithering.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have you make a investigation check for me, or or traditions.
Yeah, my investigation's way better. We're gonna go with that. That's not bad. 18. 18.
You investigate, and you're able to kind of look everything up and down, and without a doubt, this is wizard magic. This seems to be coming from some unknown energy source, but you can see that it's all rooted in the ground, and you're just like, oh, very curious. This is fascinating stuff indeed. The wall, though, as you reach out to attempt to touch from the outside, the hay itself seems to almost reach out as if to grab you.
Does it seem threatening, like it's gonna grab me and pull me in?
It's slow, as almost like it's like attracted to your presence.
Can I make some sort of check to decipher if I want to touch it?
If you want to touch it, make a wisdom saving throw for me.
Valineth and his curiousness. God, getting the best of him. It's okay. I'm good at wisdom. Wisdom saving. That's a 19.
19. Oh no, you don't want to be touching this. It piques
Okay,
your
I'm not
interest
touching
at first, but you step back, and Ingolmer,
Yep.
he laughs and says, "Oh, Valineth, I wouldn't be going and doing that. You know, the rumor has it that the reason Roscabel has survived as long as it has is this could even tangle up even the mightiest trolls. This wall feeds on danger." He shudders at the thought of it.
Well, I like to live dangerously. Ha ha ha. He walks away.
Not that dangerously, as he like guides you away from the wall itself.
Okay.
Jess, what are you doing in the meantime?
Is Ngolma near me, or
Yeah.
did he follow that?
Yeah,
Okay,
the three of you are kind of in a general vicinity together.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I'll just be like handing out these plates of like this creamy mushroom, like soupy kind of thing, with like bits of toasted bread that we have left over.
That sounds
You have no idea like where she got fresh cream from, but like it tastes real good.
Fano had some.
Sure,
Gift
Fano
from
had
the
some.
Black
Why
Tard.
not? Why not?
It
Why
was
not?
actually fish oil.
They milked fish.
I mean, yeah, sure, fish and mushroom. That sounds good. Toss some lemon in that.
Nasty.
Perfect. So,
As Valineth looks on in fear as she squeezes the whole lemon into it.
and she's practiced at it too. Like she gets a lot of juice out of that.
Yeah, for sure.
Perfect. So I will ask, Ingolma, have you given any more thought as to the goblin situation we discussed earlier?
Well, it does seem to be rather concerning. I think it's something that might be worth bringing up at the Folk-moot, specifically to see if Heartfast has noticed anything. Hardfast is Lord of Mountain Hall, and his his lands and kingdom, I guess. He's not a king, but his stronghold, that's a better word for it, is nestled within the side of the Misty Mountains. If there's any goblin activity from the Misty Mountains, he might be aware of such. Again, with the men that they're treating with, that's another concern altogether. This. We shall speak of it at the Folk-moot, indeed. This does concern me, and it is weighing on my mind heavy, especially since there is a, perhaps allies? Other woodmen from down south that we are unaware of. It's probably best that we know who our enemies are and who our allies are in these times of peace.
You refer to Lord Morgred?
Mogdred, perhaps. But also these bandits. I'm one to think that people aren't always too far gone. There's usually a reason for their reckless behavior. Well, this Voltaire that they, that signed this contract, it looks like. He maybe needs a little bit of persuading. So oftentimes I find when you leave men to their own devices, they're ruled by desires of their hearts. And one of those could be wealth, power, love, good things as well. But clearly if they're treating with goblins, that's not particularly... Well, that's worrisome, to say the least. We'll talk about it, I think, at the Folk-moot. We'll look into it. This is something that is... Well, perhaps we can put a little pressure on Mr. Voltaire and his brigands. Sometimes I find if you put just the right amount of pressure on a situation, things tend to sort themselves out.
My father refers that situation as giving them enough rope to hang themselves with, or letting them dig their own grave is another one he likes. Yes, I believe I understand your intentions.
Yes, indeed. Those are rather morbid examples, but I can understand them. I know the thought behind them, so that makes sense. Perhaps hopefully it doesn't come to that for anybody. But...
Oh, he rarely means it literally.
that's good, that's good.
He was referring to, in a rather unfortunate situation involving a tea set that, his rightful owner, it is now in its capable hands. So all's well that ends well.
Hobbits are good at cooking, and clearly they value tea. Sounds like a comfortable life you live. Back where you come from. The Shire, you say?
They are a prosperous people with little reason to wander too far from home. It makes one wonder why one would wander so far from home and then come back. Sorry, my mind wandered.
You are a mysterious one, Jess. Again, quite different from many of the hobbits that I've had the pleasure to make acquaintance with.
Do you meet many hobbits out here in the west?
Back in the day, there were a decent number of hobbits. Indeed. They lived in the Gladden Fields, but they've become fewer and fewer within the years. Don't know what that's about, but it's a pestilent place, the Gladden Fields. I don't know why hobbits would like to live in such wet, sticky holes in the ground. I can only imagine that they stink and they're damp. Ugh. I shudder to think about it, but clearly you come from a much cleaner stock than the hobbits that I knew.
Oh yes, we are. I have the pleasure of being from one of the more, shall we say,
Rated.
what?
Sophisticated.
I did not hear that. What are the more what?
Sophisticated is the word you're looking for.
Oh, thank you. Sophisticated was
Now,
the word I
now
was
put on
after,
your
actually.
monocle and go back to talking crap about all these other hobbits.
Grow a sweet
one of-
curly
one of the
curly mustache.
Mm. Just let me get my port wine.
Rate your
My
feet.
expensive cigar.
We're all losing our minds tonight. We're all losing our minds tonight, chat. People just like going crazy. It's the rocks. Get rid of get rid of our rocks. They're driving us mad.
Perfect. Yeah. Get back in character. Yes, I have the rather unique privilege of being from one of the more, shall we say, well-bred families. I am a Sackville Baggins, and quite proud of that fact.
Yes. Sackville Baggins. Something about that name rings a chord with me. I don't know why, but I can tell that you're from a good stock. That's to say the least. You make good food.
Yes.
You make lively conversation. You're good at finding out information when perhaps I didn't know there was information needing of. You're very kind at, alerting me to such behaviors of perhaps tomfoolery that is going on within the city walls where I dwell. I can say, not only are you from good stock, but I can trust you, I think.
Well, to earn the trust of the leader of the men of the Woodland Halls. Not something I had envisioned for myself, but very welcome.
Ah, yes, the leader. And he kind of not rolls his eyes at the thought, but just kind of like reflects on it. Anyways.
Like it or not, the people have chosen you.
Yes. And I
They
understand.
respect you.
I understand that I am good at what I do. It just does not pave a great way towards a future that it just makes me shudder to think what would happen if I did leave. Who would take my place in my stead? I know that the people of Woodland Town are self-sufficient, but it's not just my people that rely on me, but the people from all the settlements. Believe it or not, it's quite a bit of pressure. Pressure that I've come to accept, pressure that I've come to know. But I only hope that I can leave Woodland, the Woodmen and Woodland Village, or Woodland Hall, in a much better state than when I departed. And it can continue to be as prosperous as it is within these past few years. It's not always been easy. And, it's Folk-moots like this that I always look forward to. When we're not at war. When the enemy isn't at our front gates, per se. But times of peace don't always last. And we need strength to be able to lead the people. And, perhaps I need to do a much better job of fostering that sense of urgency instead of relishing in our prosperity.
Relishing in prosperity is never a bad thing. It's always important to take time and enjoy the things that you have. Otherwise, you'll never know how to truly appreciate.
True words indeed. I like confiding in you. You make me feel comforted. Not many people have that ability to do so.
You pay me a great compliment in saying that.
You
I've
pay me a
always-
good compliment in keeping me good company.
If you're so concerned about who would take over if you were ever to leave the woodland halls for whatever reason, I wonder that you do not nominate your own person to lead in your stead.
That is my goal. That is my plan. And, well, let's just say my son, Igland, is... He's not the best for the job. There's not a lot going on up there. And it's not my people of, well, Woodland Hall that nominate me to lead something such as the Folk-moot. Heartfast could be nominated amongst all of the peoples. That responsibility doesn't necessarily fall on whoever takes my stead. But it is the strength of Woodland Hall that I think gives people confidence. Again, my son, Igland, has not exemplified such traits. It's unfortunate to say the least, but yes, at a certain point I will pass my chair down to whoever I deem worthy to do so. I will elect, I will nominate. Chances are will not be my son, but in time, with age, I'm sure he'll mature to be a strapping lad. Yes, he already is in his, mid-30s at this point. You'd think he'd grow up by now, but... And he kind of just, like, shakes his head. He's a good hunter, but he's not a leader. I will find somebody in my stead, but I am concerned. If that makes any sense to you.
It does, to an extent. I would not worry that your son is not a leader. I'm sure he's good at what he does. My sisters are much more... Some of them are differently minded to me. They prefer sewing and music, where I prefer, well, more spiritual arts. They do not fault me for being who I am, nor do I fault them. Family is important, and they should encourage you to be who you are.
Perhaps I should encourage Igland to at least hone his skills at the crafts that he does well. I just don't think he feels any pressure. He's had it easy. He hunts, he gathers food. I think he thinks that I'm never going to die, as power is never going to be thrust upon him. I think that makes him lazy. But I also understand that it is not in everybody to lead, and I think you have a point. Encouraging the pursuits of family, or at least with what little you have, or large, perhaps. You seem to talk a lot about siblings and extended family, so I'm assuming you have a lot. Be very grateful for that. I just have my son. I'll do my best to try to be a little bit more proud.
Hobbits take great pride in their family lineage and in particular who they're related to. We find that in order for us to know who we are, we need to know how, what bonds tie us to the people around us and where we came from.
I see.
Mm.
The people of the East could learn a thing or two from the hobbits of the Shire.
Mm. It was a hard lesson, I think. Hobbits were not always so well documented as they are now. Well, there are some say that we are descendants of men, if you can believe it. But
see it.
there is... However, there is no documented historical anything to either prove or disprove this theory. So we track our family trees and we tally up our lineage. So I don't lose any more than what we have.
And you see,
We are...
that makes you survivors.
I've never thought of myself as a survivor. I always felt very blessed to have the family that I have, the connections to the land around me. The Shire is very prosperous. We do not fear for any of this shadow that I've heard speak of here. We live good lives. Ones that any fool would... Well, they are good. If you can be content with them.
I see. And he sits back and he kind of like smiles for a moment as if in a little bit of reflection. I do enjoy our talks, Jess. And he kind of looks around to see the people that are around. Valinith, you're in the general vicinity as well. At this point, Feanor and Theodric have made their way out into kind of the front gate area. And I'm going to have the four of you make perception checks for me.
18.
Oof.
9.
9.
That is natural 1 for 2.
Can't hear you, Dain.
11.
11. Yeah, Jess, you are engrossed in conversation so much to the point where you haven't actually noticed what's around you and kind of the gathering crowd. In fact, there is a gathering crowd as the time ticks closer to the Folk-moot. You see that there is a what looks to be a kind of like a procession that has begun to start. Feanor, you notice that there are a number of individuals that are at the front of this procession. One that's a little bit further back, though, that kind of piques your interest is there is a dwarf who is within this crowd. You do not recognize this dwarf per se, but based off of your time here, you find it odd that everyone was so concerned with you, an elf being here, but not so concerned with a dwarf being here. Theodric and Valinith. As you look at the crowd, you notice that a number of men have gathered the crowd at the front, including a couple of women as well. One of which looks to be kind of a, not jittery, but a very like alert looking individual. And then there is a really, really large man who's actually helmed at the front of this group, and he seems to be carrying what looks to be a great spear upon his back. He has this kind of like almost these mutton chops that come down along the side of his face, and he has kind of almost this like permanent looking scowl like on his face as he like looks about everyone. You see the two women, one of which a little bit older, and the other one definitely younger. They have all gathered along with a procession of a couple other individuals. There is a man you don't recognize. He looks to be some kind of, you're not sure if it's like a servant or one of these leaders, like hand servants. But he is carrying this lantern that is on a pole, and it's kind of dangling, and it's in this glass case. And all of you are noticing this at this point, and it sheds kind of this like dim, kind of pulsating light. And it's a soft orange glow, and it's actually very good. And Ingolmer says, "Oh, would you look at the time? It looks like the procession has begun to make our way to our meeting place for the annual Folk-moot of Roscabel. Please, friends, you are welcome guests to such a thing. Please, follow me. There's only a very few people who are able to sit in on such an established tradition. Enjoy your time with us, and hopefully our prattle doesn't bore you too much." And he offers you a spot in line as you depart from Baldur and Belgo, and the rest in order to gather around this lantern. Do you do so?
Yes.
Cool.
Why not?
You begin to wander up a path. This is not a like a bricked path or even a trodden wood path, but it's almost as if the trees themselves and the grass have parted to have this small, narrow path that winds its way through the woods. And you notice as you creep around, the sun is basically noon in the sky. You see that it eventually reveals itself to this large hillock. There are, following around you, a number of guards that begin to, as you ascend to the top of this kind of peak, you're able to see out above essentially Mirkwood. If you squint, you maybe think you can just barely see the Lonely Mountain way off to the north. But you would have to really, really look and concentrate hard. But this hill opens up to this vast expanse of Mirkwood, this forest. You see the mountains of Mirkwood in the center, basically erecting towards the sky. The misty mountains off to the west, and you see Wilderland as it expands out from north to south. This is a very, very advantageous viewpoint of Mirkwood and the surrounding area of Rovinion. And the guards, they all take their place around kind of the outside of the circle, and they all face outwards, as if to look to see if there's any intruders or anything that would come. This is very clearly a well-fortified and protected area. But as you make your way kind of into the center, you notice that there are a number of seats that gather around a small little, basically like, it's like a campfire, but instead of a fire, there's like one of those hooks that hold like a pot over the fire, and they place the lantern on this hook. And it begins, even though it's noon and basically high noon, and the summer sun is hot and beating down on you, this lantern almost seems to flood the area with this kind of calming glow. There are a number of seats. One is a large wooden chair that Ingolmer, he makes his way over and sits down. The large man sits directly to his left, the scowling man. And directly to his right is the kind of the jittery looking man. Feanor, you recognize this as Fridwald. And the three of them, they kind of make up the core. And then on Fridwald's left, Gayla Vera takes her place. And on the large man's right, you see Ameliota take her place. And so basically they're kind of make up half this circle. Where you are all offered a seat are these small little, essentially stools, made out of like tree trunks, but they're carved to kind of accommodate for sitting. They're stools, but they're a little bit more comfortable than just like tree logs. You each take a seat. What order do you want to take your seat in?
Um, if I could be sitting as close to like one of the like leaders as I can be, like one of the ones I know.
Mm.
So even if it's like Gay Lavira or something, I would.
Yeah.
Dain would try to sit there.
You find one of the seats that is opened right next to Galavira, and you have a seat there. Do the rest of you have any preference about where you're sitting, or are you just going to kind of sit wherever?
I'm going to sit on the smallest log.
Okay, perfect. That is going to be the one that is 2 over from Feanor, so you have a seat, meaning there's one open in front of, I guess there's one open that's in front of, or between Jess and Feanor, and then there are 4 others that make their way around. There's one that's kind of like front and center, and then there's 3 open ones that kind of wind their way over to Emily.
Theodric's gonna sit front and center.
Okay.
I guess.
Valnith will sit between Feanor and Jess then.
Perfect. And as you do so, the other 2 seats, they actually get filled by 2 more individuals. This dwarf that has made their way up upon this hill, and a man. I'm going to have all of you make traditions checks for me.
Traditions.
That's an 8.
That is an 11.
13.
13?
16.
16. Feanor, this man, to any of the rest of you, this individual could be a woodman. The kind of his general facial structure, his hair, his skin tone, the clothing that he's wearing, everything that he wears tells you, oh, he could be a woodman. But one thing that you notice, Feanor, is he has these stark blue eyes. That is completely different from anything that you've seen from the woodman. In fact, if you had any sense of kind of lineage, you would think that this man most likely hails from the Dalelands. You're unsure, though, because everything else about him looks like he could be a woodman. But you all take a seat. And as you do so, there is this like small kind of drums that begin to bang as one of kind of like the servants begin, and everybody has a seat with the exception of Ingolmer. You all take a look around. Do you take a seat as well?
If
I'm
everyone else
sitting.
is sat down, then I would.
Perfect.
You know.
Sit.
Follow the leader.
Follow the leader.
When in Rome.
When in Rome. You all have a seat, and Ingolmer, he takes front and center, and he addresses the lot of you. It's a decent number of people, actually, and it is kind of surprising that a meeting like this could happen just so casually out in the middle of Mirkwood. That's something that runs definitely through your minds. Maybe not Jess's as much, but all of this seems maybe a little bit odd to you. But you all have a seat and kind of have this this moment of reverence where there's this silence as the drums continue, and they stop. And after the last beat, Ingolmer he addresses the crowd. Welcome, gathered kin of Wilderland, to the 6th annual Folk-moot of Roskabel. 6th annual, including our extended brethren. We'll introduce that pretty soon here. But we gather here once again, bathed in the lamp of Belthy. Once more to strengthen the bonds that unite our woodman folk. This year, we not only have simple matters of trade to discuss. While there are plenty of those to discuss, of course, we are joined by a number of guests. I see the confusion on some of your faces, and he looks to particularly the man to his immediate right, the gruff-looking man. Well, I see the confusion on some of your faces. Before we officially commence, may I ask each of our guests to introduce themselves to the council? And he gestures actually to the woman, the dwarf sitting next to Ameliota. The dwarf, he stands up and he has this very deep bow. His beard basically touches the ground and drapes on the ground. The name is Bofri. Bofri, son of Bofer, emissary of the king under the mountain, at your service. And he has a seat. In Golmer, he gestures over to the next man, the Dalish-looking fellow. He stands. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Saywin, of the East Bite. It is a pleasure to make your acquaintance. And he bows and he sits. Which brings us over to Theodric.
Theodric stands and gives his best bow. So, good evening, everybody. I am Theodric of Rohan. It's a pleasure to meet you all. And then he also sits down.
Next is Valinith.
Valinith, in his best elfly courtesy that he can muster, is, "May the evening be good to you." And says, "My name is Valinith, son of Morbeth. I hail from Rivendell. It is pleasure to be at your service tonight."
And next is Jess.
She'll stand up, give a very gracious curtsy, say, "Pleasure to be here with everyone. I am Jessamine Sackville Baggins. I hail from the Shire." And I'll sit back down.
And Feanor.
I am Feanor the Lochduin of the Mirkwood. I'm sure many of you are familiar with my kind.
I'm going to have everybody makes traditions checks. Feanor's, you can have yours at advantage.
Natural 20 for a 22.
An 18.
Snap.
I got a 13.
Okay.
I got a 19. I had to use my
Your inspiration.
my
that you got?
inspo for it though.
Okay. They look to the group of you, and everybody within the council kind of looks at each other, but particularly your group. And the man, the mutton chop, angry-looking man says, "Well, this isn't so much a Folk-moot of Roskabel with the Woodmen as it is a council of Middle-earth. What is the meaning of this, Ingolmer?" And Ingolmer says, "Friend, you do not need to be concerned with the ongoings of, the peoples of the rest of the world. Everybody here has been invited, whether by myself or by one of the other leaders here. We have all been reached out to by one of these individuals to be a part of this group. While they are not woodmen of the woodmen communities, they might bring news from afar. Clearly they offer friendship. Or they may seek assistance. Open an ear for what each have to say, as I am sure these matters that concern us all. Now that we are familiar with each other, the council shall commence. As leader of this council, I will bring matters of trade to the forefront. Our lands have prospered, and our trade routes have been lifelines that sustain our peoples. But I look to expand our horizons. Connection with the elves of the Mirkwood realm, perhaps. Who among us has wisdom to guide us in this endeavor?" He looks out to the group.
Feanor, I just need to quickly check the names of characters. Feanor is like, "Well, as a member of those people, perhaps by establishing more of a connection through my father, Linda, one of the members of the King's High Council, by brokering more of a friendship between our houses and our peoples, perhaps we can organize something more protection in the Mirkwood and stronger trade lines.
As you mention this, Fridwald, he says, "Ah, Feanor! I knew I recognized you." As he says this, I'm gonna have all four of you make perception checks for me. I knew I recognized you. Oh, how have you
Is-
been,
is-
lad?
Is he the one who brought me the letter that
He
from Dale?
is.
Yeah.
16.
16,
I got a 10.
10.
I only got a
I'm still
9.
writing.
Yes, Fruithold. No, it is a pleasure to see you again as well. I actually haven't seen you since I departed from Woodman Town.
Ah, that's right. A little over a year has it been. Oh, goodness,
Yes.
indeed. You haven't changed a bit. Maybe your hair's a little wilder than I'm used to seeing, but are these your friends? Clearly, you keep
yes,
a well-rounded company.
yes, these
I
were
got a-
actually friends that I met in Dale. Or that letter that you delivered me was actually a summons to come meet King Bard himself. It's part of the reason why I'm here, actually, but I will allow matters of importance for this land to go first before I interrupt.
Jess, what was your roll?
I got a 14 for perception.
14. All of you notice that there is one empty chair. Well, you see, in Golmer, I've known, well, I've come to know Feanor. He stayed for a time at our village, what was it, over a year ago at this point. I didn't know where he came from. He didn't speak much, but this is news to me that he is, well, son of Lindar. It's been, well, as far as I can remember, we haven't done much trade with the Woodland Realm. Perhaps we should listen to what he has to say. I know they have quite a few goods, and there's been some traders that have come through Northern Mirkwood to be able to have, especially that delicious wine. It's amazing what they're able to do there, but it's very rare that we have elves down in this neck of the woods. Ever since the shadow has, well, all but dissipated down here, they seem to be having more concerns about what's going on up in the Northern Wood. I've been here, there, about, and, well, the woods are not as safe as they used to be. At least up north.
Yes, it is unfortunate that that is the case. It is taking much more of King Thranduil's efforts to push back the shadow. But even on the way here, while I was traveling, we were able to encounter and send on its way some of the darker agents, some of the largest spiders. Savage Tawler himself was sent back into the woods. Sadly not defeated, but the woods up north are not as safe as they once were.
Well, this does bring concern. In Golmer, I understand that we need to expand relations, but news of the road, news of travelers that have made their way through, from what I've experienced, there's a darkness that lies upon the north of Mirkwood. I know that we need to expand our trade relations, but perhaps now is not the time for such things. And in Golmer, he puts up his hand and says, I understand. Times are good and peaceful for us at the current moment. But you see, my friends here, and he gestures to the group of you. They encountered a lot on the road, but they also made it through in one piece. I've also spoke with Baldur. He's a trader from Esgaroth. And from what he's seen, what he's experienced on the road, what you say is true. Perhaps the elf path is not as easily traversed as it once was. Perhaps maybe we should consider other trade routes. Perhaps eastwardly down through Mirkwood. I know there's a great long river. The River Running makes its way all the way from Esgaroth all the way down to a fair chunk southwards. Feanor, What knowledge do you have of the passageways and the elves being able to utilize barges and such to be able to make their way down south on the river running?
From what Feanor knows, like that is something that the Wood Elves do, is it not?
Yes. Their barges actually go all the way down to Dorwinian. They relish in Dorwinian wine. So if you look on this map, the river running, the Mirkwood or Woodland Realm, Elf King's Halls are here. Lake Town is here. The river running goes all the way down to about here. And then the rest of the way down would have to be traversed otherwise.
Yes, this is something that my peoples would be able to more than easily accomplish, and especially with news that I've heard that the Easterbite is more inhabitable than it has been in quite some time. This could open up more extensive trade. There were some incidents of some time, so traveling by foot across the running river would probably require the reconstruction of bridges, but if that is the bulk of the issue there, then it shouldn't really be that much issue for woodmen of your own skills.
In Golmer, he nods and he looks over to the man who introduced himself as Seawin. What say you, Seawin? And he stands and he very nervously looks and says, well, if we could have some kind of liaison, perhaps with King Thranduil or the Master of the Cellars, I have no reason why the people of the East Bite couldn't help in such an endeavor, but perhaps my true intentions here shall be saved for quite a bit later. But I don't see a problem with this. And in Golmer, he nods his head and he nods over to Fridwald and says, we'll keep that in mind. If you would send word to Thranduil's halls that we are interested in making trade connections, I think that would go a long way. Fridwald, unfortunately, cannot make his way that far north, meaning we could either send word by Raven or find a way in person to be able to deliver such a notice.
I believe this is something that we can do, something we can arrange. While I was actually down outside of Roskabel, I actually encountered some traders and some of the knights from Dale. So perhaps on their way through, they have quite a close connection to Thranduil's halls, being allies. So they should be able to pass my message on, especially with my connections both to Thranduil's halls and to Dale itself.
The Ingolmer nods in firm agreeance. What brings matters for the rest of our communities? Heartfast. And he looks over to his right, and Heartfast, this hulk of a man, he stands up from his chair and he towers over all of you. Again, he has this great spear at his side, and he has actually a servant that is at his side who is holding a great helm and what looks to be a shield down in front. Definitely the more militant looking of the group. He says, Ingolmer, council members, I stand before you from the house of Mountain Hall. While you point out that trade has been prosperous in recent years, Ingolmer, in the case of Mountain Hall, our trade routes have, were once swift and sure, but as of late they faced a bitter challenge. And the challenge comes from the Beornings. Well, the Beornings have raised tolls and have strangled commerce, making the path across Wilderland arduous and expensive. While we are grateful for the protection of Beorn's people during our trade, these effects of the costs of goods from Mountain Hall, they add up. And if we do not discuss and implement solutions of these tolls, we are going to have to increase the price of our goods in the rest of the Woodman settlements. We need solutions to ensure that our goods flow freely. And in Golmer he says, Heartfast, Your concerns are heard, and the strength of your men of the Misty Mountains and your stone and steel are essential to Wilderland's prosperity. Brothers and sisters, how can we navigate these troubled waters? Who bears knowledge about the Beorning's ways?
How much knowledge do I have of the Beornings in my times?
As much experience as the rest of the party does.
Okay, cool. Hey guys, do you know anything? Do you know how we can help with this?
Actually, I feel like I would know a little bit because I spent like.
That's true. You had the
Yeah.
Beornings that, like, Igualar, who you basically traveled with that caravan. And you do remember that you also
Yeah.
made a connection with another Beorning as well on
Yeah.
the road. So.
I was on the way through, yeah.
Mhm.
So she'll sort of hesitantly raise her hand, seeing as no one else is speaking up.
Yes, little one. And like this booming voice just like echoes over you as this huge lumbering man just stands and just, you know the Beornings and their ways.
A little bit. First of all, my name is Jessamine, not Little One. That's a little patronizing. I have been taken. I have been fortunate enough to spend some time in their company. I don't claim to know everything about them, but, well, as they say in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. I've made some connections, some friends, if nothing else. They're quite a reasonable group.
I'm listening.
I don't know where I was going with this. Is there perhaps a way you could negotiate with them? Pay a bulk toll fee instead of individual ones, perhaps, if you're doing a lot of traveling. Or else try to connect with them. And see if they want to help you in a more direct manner.
A way that perhaps that you might approach this is, if you were to more directly engage in trade with the Beornings themselves, it would incentivize them to allow you to pass through their lands for a much cheaper price.
Exactly.
Yes, this means that you must produce more goods, but you will also be benefiting from whatever you're able to sell in their lands.
I'm gonna have Jess. You're going to make a persuasion check for me, and this could be at an advantage with Feanor's help.
Awesome. Excellent. I'm good at persuasion. Advantage. Roll. Okay, that's decent. 17.
17. Heartfast, he kind of looks at the two of you. Well, perhaps trying new things could work. It is these Yes, go ahead.
I was just going to say, clearly the older ways aren't getting you the results that you hoped for.
Indeed. There is a little bit of animosity, I will say, about the people of Mountain Hall and the Beornings. As you know, the Beornings are friends with the Great Eagles. And the Great Eagles are very fond of eating our sheep. There's been a time or two where we've chased those eagles off with arrow. And let's just say that it has not acquainted us very well with the Beornings, and I do find that they are taking it personally that we are protecting what is rightfully ours because of the relationships that they have with Gwaihir, the Lord of the Eagles. But perhaps an emissary might be able to help us in such an endeavor. Where we are told heavily is at the crossing of the Anduin. There are a few major bridges that span the length of it, the length of the Great River. And the Beornings, they keep very well guard of those, which we are grateful that it keeps away orcs and wolves and wargs and unsavory creatures and brigands, but every single caravan we have going through are charged, and I think unfairly so. Word from Gwahir's enemy, and he rolls his eyes at that, will not go very far in order to convince him. But you, little one, are you friends
It's
with the
Jessamine.
Beornings, you say? Sorry, Jessamine. Pardon. Jessamine. You are friends with the Beornings, is that correct?
With a couple of them. Correct. I have a way about people. But that way will only get me so far if you are not willing to negotiate some things. It could be that in attempting to befriend the Beornings, you will also have to establish a relationship with these eagles. Whatever that may entail.
I understand. And he gives a deep sigh. We are proud folk of Mountain Hall. And in past years, when the shadow laid heavy upon the lands of Wilderland, every bit of food that we could have, well, that would do. We would need to save, ration. And simply missing one sheep would mean a harder winter for us. And Ameliota, she actually steps in. Hardfast, I want you to understand. One of the reasons that I come here, not only am I here to represent the settlement of the Black Tarn, but as you had mentioned, these aren't previous years. We are in times of peace, and sacrifices perhaps need to be made. As Jessamine so graciously offered, I think her advice is well taken. The eagles are enemies of orcs. They're enemies of goblins. Why must we make them our enemies as well? If you could spare a couple of sheep, if you could do trade with the eagles, per se, that might go a long way, and in turn, if we're able to get prices reasonable between our settlements, we have an abundance of fish, an abundance of goods to be able to share with the rest of the people. Our settlement is small, and we have much more than what we truly need. In fact, we find it actually difficult to consume the food that we catch. Jessamine has a point, and Feanor does too. Perhaps negotiations can be made in mutual respect and trust. I find it's very difficult to make friends when you're constantly stirring up and shooting arrows at their friends. Perhaps words need to be exchanged. And you don't necessarily have to include these companions of Feanor. Pardon, we've already met. But these are outsiders. We can't throw all of our problems on them. Fridwald, perhaps you and Heartfast can arrange something. And Ingolmer, he steps in. And this is why the Folk-moot, this is why we have it. Perhaps we should have it more than yearly. But yes. Thank you, the two of you. We shall make arrangements. Fridwold, Heartfast. See to it that you speak with the Beornings. And Jessamine, Fëanor, Theodric Valineth, if on your adventures, on your journeys, you come across any Beornings, perhaps you can put a good word in for our settlements.
Having visited the many settlements that you have through here, with the exception of Mountain Hall, forgive that I was not able to make it there for this meeting, but I have no doubt that it, along with all the others, is filled with honorable, just people who are fighting back against the shadow and are just trying to thrive and to expand. I don't see anything wrong with sharing my honest opinion with the Beornings. It is, like I said, my honest opinion. I have nothing but good things to say about all the interactions that I've had with Woodman in time.
And hopefully we can keep it that way. Again, we owe you in many ways, but this would just go another mark in your favor. We do consider you friends.
Me and my companions, while we are trying to make sure that our intentions are known as friends, and we are appreciative of that, especially you and Golma. You've been very kind to my companions and even to me in my time at Woodman Hall. But we're trying, at the very least I can say for myself, I am here to help. If any of you have anything that can be done to help secure, like, these lands, the wilderness more, I offer my services.
Thank you for the offer. In fact, our wonderful dwarven friend over there might have something to ask you. But let us return to matters that consider the woodman. Galavira, introduce yourself to our guests. Do you have anything to say?
Fëanor gives you like a little pat on the back, like an encouraging one, like, hey, go for it.
Galavira, she stands and she addresses the crowd. You can tell she's a little bit nervous. But she says, "Thank you, Ingolmer. As many of you know, I'm Galavira of Rowanhold, and I bring news that our people have recently finished its rebuilding this past spring. I have nothing to ask of the council this year, but rather an extension of my sincerest thanks for your aid during our rebuild, and a seat at this council. I want to give a special thanks to Ingolmer and Fridwold for lending me laborers to rebuild the town. And for Beaufry, I didn't expect to find you here, my friend, for giving us the recipe to strengthen our palisades against goblin fire. I also want to extend gratitudes towards Fëanor. As many of you know, Rowanhold stands as a bulwark against the goblins of Mirkwood. While attacks have been less frequent as of late, we have our fair share of conflict as we expand deeper into Mirkwood. The last month, we have not had a single individual thanks to the training regiments imparted to my warriors from Fëanor. Thank you, each and every one of you. All I ask is, from my time here, that you listen to what Fëanor and his companions have to say. I vouch for him. And when that time comes that they address the council, give them fair and open ears. They are friends of mine, and that I owe them a great debt." And she sits down. In Golmer, he says, well, you are a sister and a valuable asset to the safety of the Eves of Mirkwood. You and your people have stood against the goblin threat for long, protecting the borders of the Woodland Hall and Woodman Town and Roscabel for some time. It is only fitting to allow you to be a part of our council. Ameliota, what do you bring to the council? And you see from across the way, Ameliota, she stands up. Ingolmer, fellow woodman, hear me well. I stand before you as Ameliota, shield maiden of the Black Tarn. Recent years have blessed us with a bountiful harvest and fish aplenty, as I have stated before. The pestilent frogs that once plagued our shores have vanished. The black tarn gleams with promise, and I ask this council for one request. And she hesitates and stutters for a moment and looks awkwardly around. May I extend an invitation to the citizens of Roskville, to the citizens of Woodland Hall, Woodman Town, and even Mountain Hall, to join my people in the Black Tarn, build new lives and new homes. Together we can venture south to raise a longhouse that which we have already started construction, and fortify our future behind a walled settlement like each of you have, beside the Black Tarn's waters. We are on the precipice of expansion. I want you to see this. Those of you who have visited in your time traveling back and forth between my peoples, I know we're small, but those who have taken the time to visit us know we are growing. Our borders are safe. All we seek is to populate and to grow our settlement. We have food aplenty for the land, and land for those who wish to join us in this endeavor. And he looks around. I'm going to actually have Valinith, Theodric. I'm going to have the two of you make perception checks for me. And as you're doing this, Fridwald, he chimes in. I, Ameliota, the Black Tarn's successes are no secret. As the leader of Woodman Town, I see the glint of potential in this quest of yours. The unity of our people would shine even brighter in the southern lands if you can accomplish what you set out to do. Theodric and Valinith, what were your...
22.
22?
I got a 6.
6. Completely...
Just mine stole all my good luck.
All the nat 20s. But Theodric, as you kind of investigate and you see all the people that are speaking, your eyes set heavy on the figure of Heartfast. He's a much more intimidating and daunting figure than you had originally perceived. But something about him seems vaguely familiar to you, and you can't quite put a finger to it. Valinith, as you are basically looking about to see kind of what's everything, you're half listening but also observing people. One of the things that you notice is up above, kind of centrally above the candlelight, you start to notice that there are a few birds that have begun to gather, and they've begun to circle counterclockwise around what looks to be the center of this lantern. I'm going to have you make an insight check for me.
Insight. Interesting. Okay. 11.
11. Unable to discern what purpose or what patterns these birds are signaling, the group of you are immediately brought to the attention of a new voice. The empty seat that was once there is now filled by a raggedy-looking old man. Poop encrusted in his beard and hair. Appears as if out of nowhere. He states, he breaks the silence.
Even my heart stirs at the prospect of this venture, Ameliota. The woodman's growth is a reflection of its vitality. Your vision resonates with the winds of change, with this very spirit of the land.
He looks at all of you.
Sorry I'm late.
And he sits down.
I think Jess is sitting with her mouth slightly agape, just staring at this dude.
Yeah, this dude's absolutely crazy looking. And he kind of just sits there, and he has kind of one leg tucked behind the other as he's kind of just casually sitting there. He seems to be talking quietly to himself every now and then over his shoulder, but he just is looking at all of you, not really smiling. It's kind of a difficult expression that you read on him, but you can tell that he's deeply contemplative, at least. Ingolmer, he smiles. He says, Radagast, it's good of you to join us. Well, now that we're all here, I will say, your words mirror the wisdom of the trees that you love so dearly. And he laughs and he chuckles. Amblyota, your request finds eager ears and open hearts among this council, clearly. The Folk-moot is not merely a gathering, it is a convergence of destinies. So let us, as kin, embark on this path united, forging a bond that generations to come shall celebrate. When the black tarn grows and prospers, the woodmen grow and prosper. The threads of our unity grow stronger as the days grow lighter. Amblyota, your vision ignites a flame for our future, a flame which guides us. The Black Tarn's call is heard, and together we shall answer. So at this point, this is one of the bigger decisions that are going to be made. This is kind of an example of what is going to be made kind of for proceedings through the rest of the Folk-moot. Essentially, what I mean by this is there's going to be certain issues that, as a group, you're going to have basically one vote of say of what's going to happen within this. And so, essentially, the outsiders kind of have a vote, and then everybody else has a certain vote. So certain things are going to be decided upon. This one, without even having to put much effort into, even Heartfast readily agrees to send word to his people, and if they want to build lives in the Black Tarn, they're going to do so. And so, with that, the council unanimously agrees that this is something that they would like to do. And the offer is also extended to the group of you as well. If there are any people on the road that you see that are maybe looking for a place amongst the woodmen, Black Tarn is perhaps a place to be able to mention to them. Time has passed. Discussion has continued. It's starting to... day is beginning to break slightly, as it probably creeps into about 3:30 p.m. Ingolmer, he says, and he continues, and now to foreign matters. There's plenty yet to be discussed. Clearly, we have plenty of visitors, plenty of guests amongst us today. I turn our collective gaze to one who walks a different path, yet seeks kinship among us. And he looks directly at Saywin. Let it be known that one not of our people, though akin from afar, has asked to speak here. Come forth, Saywin. The rest of the group murmurs. Fridwald kind of calls over to Heartfast, and some kind of quick words are passed. Pretty quiet to be able to be heard. But Saywin, he stands up, like, partially shaken. This man is relatively young, probably late 30s, and he is starting to gray a little bit, but he has a firm stature. This is clearly, if you didn't know he was Dalish, you would assume that he probably comes from some kind of either noble bearing or descendant from some kind of northern folk. But he stands up and he addresses the assembly nervously. Yes, for those who don't know me, my people dwell in the east bight of Mirkwood. We have found home on fertile soil, nestled between Wilderland, Dale, and the realm of Dorwinion. We have found home on fertile soil. We have found home not only there, but we have grown. Our land was once abandoned by the Northmen, your ancestors, and he points to the group of the woodmen sitting there. And it has thrived in our care. We've built a longhouse, and our numbers grow with each passing season. I stand before you to ask for more than friendship. I ask for your kinship. I ask that my people be counted among the woodmen, that we stand united as one. We bring not only friendship, but also wealth. As representatives of the East Bight, in exchange for this bond, we have, well, anything that you could want. From trinkets from the Lonely Mountain, dwarf forged goods, And if perhaps we could strike trade between the elves of Mirkwood, perhaps we could even help in extending trade that way. We don't offer much as far as warriors, but we do have wealth. And if that can help you grow, well, this is my offer to you from the people of the East Bight. What say you? Do any of you have anything to add to this?
Yeah, I do.
Yes. Jess, go ahead.
Yep. I know that my word may not hold much weight here. I come from far away and have little knowledge of your customs. But as I was speaking to Ngolma not but a few hours ago, family is very important. If one of your own seeks to reclaim their roots and seek kinship, I see no fault in this.
Immediately, Amelioda, she speaks up. The words you speak are true, indeed, Jess. The problem here is, Saywin, you're not really of our kin, are you? And she kind of narrows her eyes, and he's literally like standing right next to her, and she narrows her eyes and kind of like looks him up and down, and she says, "You've settled on the land that once belonged to our forefathers, the people who have come from the north. Tell me, Saywin, where do you hail from? Clearly you're not from here, though your clothes try to, well, beg as such." And Saywin, he takes a moment, kind of a little bit taken aback by the answer, but he says, "It is true that I myself am not a direct descendant of the Woodmen. My roots are found in Dale. The people that I've gathered at my settlement come from all over. They include Woodmen. They include men of the north, those from Esgaroth, even some from Dorwinion. I know what I ask is a lot. Not just friendship, but kinship. And I know that blood runs deep. But I want to be considered amongst your family. I don't want to use you like a leech, like a parasite. I want to share our wealth. Amelioda, from what you've mentioned, you have an abundance of food, resources, and you only seek to share. It's the exact same thing we offer. Though we are not kin, but kin from afar. Amelioda, she says, the bonds between our current settlements, and by such I mean the Black Tarn, Rowanhold, Roskabel, Woodland Hall, and Woodman Town and Mountain Hall. They've been forged over years. You understand that, Saywin. We've shared years of struggle together. The addition to new kin could fray what we've built, extend ourselves too far. Galavira actually, she interrupts in like immediately from this, and she actually is nodding in agreement with Amelioda. Amelioda speaks wisely. Our closeness, our proximity, well, that's kind of what has safeguarded us in these woods. To expand too hastily might leave us vulnerable to the shadow we've long kept at bay. I can't promise that we would be able to protect you. You said you're not warriors. What happens if the shadow comes? What happens if an orc raid comes upon your stronghold? and you seek to us for aid. Can you expect us to give up what little we have, what little strength to be able to come and fight for those who, yes, perhaps sharing their wealth, but we have not built strong bonds with? If anyone else wants to...
Yeah, Valinith is gonna clear his throat and pop up and say, "Ah, yes, your plight. The plight against the shadow. In my travels and in my time here on Middle-earth, yes, not by elf standards, maybe not necessarily super long, but I am a learned man, a man of history. This man alluded to Awar, what's his name? Saywin. Saywin claims that he is distantly related to your people. So there is a blood tie there, but I think the most important part here is the gaining of allies. Yes, he says he cannot protect you. He doesn't come from warriors. However, he does say he has a lot of coin and money, which can supply and help the rest of everyone else. You say that there's no ties that tie anyone down. These are new bonds, and you need to rely on old bonds. But I also look back to 5 years ago, the Battle of the Five Armies, where four unlikely allies who don't have any bonds, any connection, were able to drive back that evil. And we were just in, not too long ago, Dale, and it's thriving with the help of the dwarves of the Lonely Mountains and the Iron Hills and Lake Town, and even the Woodland Realm. They're new bonds, but they're bonds that have given great protection to all these settlements. And these aren't even necessarily all the same races as well. They're elves, men, and dwarves. This man, he comes from a long lineage of your people. He's a man himself. He's more closely connected to you than anyone in that battle up north, and they're doing just fine. Yes, he can't support you warrior-wise, but it seems like more than enough be able to support you financially, which there's a lot that can be said by that.
If I might, Saywin, what do you know of the Woodman culture, of its people?
And he hesitates for a moment.
Is to be part of a people's is not just by proximity. Perhaps an alternative can be reached. Much as Valinith said, allies are needed. Perhaps, for the time being, the Woodland Realms will consider you an ally, and in future years, perhaps you may appear at another Folk-moot. I am sure that Ngulma would be more than willing to help teach your people their ways at Woodman Hall. Ngulma, what say you to this? I know that my own companions have been able to learn a great deal in our time there.
You bring a good point. News of this proposal is not new to my ears, and it has been something that I have been contemplating perhaps longer than any of the rest of you. Maybe with the exception of Fridwald here. And Fridwald, he shakes his head. A compromise could perhaps be arranged. But before we do such things, Hardfast, you seem quiet on such matters. What say you? And Hardfast, he looks. He doesn't rise or stand at all for this one, and he kind of bends over and he looks at the faces of everyone and says, Saywin, well, you are not a warrior, but the people of Mountain Hall are. And what we know is forged steel. Your proposal hangs like a blade between hope and concern. The strength in numbers is undeniable. Yet, like a blade, it cuts both ways. The shadow we've kept at bay might see this as this expansion of the people of the Woodland Realm as an opportunity. A united woodman is a threat to the shadow. But perhaps that's just what we need to be. And he kind of nods to himself, contemplating. The dangers of the wood have slowed, but to those of this council who live in relative safety, they know not of the struggle of the threat of darkness at our front step. All but Rowanhold, perhaps. I have led my people in protection of the lands of the Misty Mountains, and goblins are spotted almost nightly, attempting to enter Mountain Hall. While our walls of stone keep us safe, for now, it is a united front of the realms of men that will ultimately keep this vile creature, goblins, shadow, orcs, well, it will keep them in check. Gomer nods. Any of the rest of you? Do you have anything to say for or against Saywin? Before we debate and make conversation, and he leaves the floor open. Well, it seems like everybody here has made their point. Valineth, I can't help but reflect on what you've said, what recent history has taught us. I personally find Saywin to be a good man, from what I have experienced. He's brought a scattered people together. That's not something most leaders can do. He's created safety and he's created wealth. And yes, wealth attracts darkness. Allies attract darkness. In these times of darkness, we must hold on to what we can have. Any ally is a boon against the shadow. The more we threaten the shadow, yes, the more their eye turns upon us. But it is these bonds that make us strong. United, we will stand and not be defeated so easily. Radagast, he chimes in.
In times of change, clearly we're in such times. Balance. Yes, it is balance that must be sought. As the Force teaches us, growth can be both a boon and a challenge. These lands, my lands, they were once plagued, but there is new growth. And it is in these times of peace that that new growth has been able to grow. But if we had more help against the shadow, perhaps the trees would not have become dead, stagnant. The land itself breathes for change, and so too must we.
And he kind of starts murmuring to himself. Not a really a firm answer either way. But he does speak. Saywin looks at the rest of you and he says, "Hear me, leaders." And he looks a little bit desperate at this point. Beads of sweat forming on his brow. I stand here not as an outsider, but yes, as a distant relative. Distant, yes, it may be. Seeking to join a distant family. Strength and unity. My people have thrived in Mirkwood. And now we seek to thrive among you. Our friendship and wealth, they are not empty promises. We might not be that realm of warriors, but we can hold our own, as we have done so for nearly 4 years at this point. I promise to you, and he bows his head, we will not be a burden to your peoples. I swear it. And he bows his head to the ground, which leaves room for debate.
Before that happens, Theodric is going to raise his hand and
Go ahead.
stand. He's just going to be like, good people of the Folk-moot. For those of you who may have forgotten or weren't paying attention, I am Theodric of Rohan. I've been quietly listening, as I was unaware of whether it was my place to speak here or not, as these matters have not much to do with me. I was not sure how much input outsider should have in such matters. But speaking bluntly, as is the case with most men of Rohan, I believe that while such caution is appropriate in dealing with such things, opening up the possibility of trade and of alliance and protection can never be a bad thing. In these times when the Mirkwood and the roads are getting so dangerous, overcome with spiders and goblins and bandits and, you know, the Valar knows only what else. Having strong ties to your close-by neighbors, whether you are willing to admit that they're kin or not, or acknowledge them as kin or not, can only be a good thing. Men can be trained to be warriors. And the simple fact is, with how dark things are getting in recent times around the Mirkwood and around, well, specifically around the southern reaches of Mirkwood, it is probably a good bet to, at the very least, sincerely consider his plea and the plight of his people.
And with such words, we shall deliberate. Saywin, clearly we know your choice in the matter, but I leave the option open to everybody here. Leaders, guests. Yes, I value your opinion too. What say each of you? And he goes around and he gestures over to Fridwald. Fridwald, what do you and your people of Woodland Hall, or Woodman Town, what do they say? And Fridwald says,
I'm hesitant.
your words are
Stirring indeed.
But clearly we have matters in our own yard, our own backyard that need attending to. At this moment, I'm gonna have to decline. In Golmer, he gestures over to Heartfast. I think we all know my opinion. We should let Saywin and the people of the East Bight become part of the Woodmen. Together, we will create a kingdom as strong as Gondor. He gestures over to Ameliota. And she seems very, very on the fence. She looks to everybody and then glances down as if not to be influenced in any way. I'm going to have Feanor make an insight check for me.
20. Not natural 20, dirty 20.
She stutters for a moment. And Feanor, you can see the sense of doubt upon her face. I have not much else to say other than the people of the Black Tarn are going to decline your offer. From what you are able to perhaps insight off of her, from your conversations and the time that you've spent at the Black Tarn, she really wants to grow. Clearly, Saywin's proposal is something that is an overabundance of wealth, perhaps maybe so much so to outstage the people of the Black Tarn. Perhaps she doesn't want them to join because she doesn't want the people who would come to the Black Tarn to look just to the east to find a more prosperous place to live in the East Bight. There's apprehension there. Gilavira, your answer. She looks to you, Feanor. She looks to the group. I know that this is truly my first year being part of this Folk-moot. And I feel guilty being any kind of deciding vote or answer of such a thing, but I know it is my duty. What Fridwold has to say is... it strikes true. But I also have... and she looks to you, Feanor. I have heard otherwise. Feanor, I'm going to have you make a persuasion check for me. This is going to be contested.
Oh no! Oh wait, I have an inspiration. Let us. Oh, I got a 7.
7. I'm sorry. She whispers to you, Feanor. For this year, as of now, Rowanhold will not accept Saywin's offer. Makes his way over to Radagast. What say you? He continues to mutter to himself.
I will be the deciding vote. Perhaps. Give me more time.
Everything at your own pace, eh, Radagast? To our guests. You've heard the concerns of the Woodman people. You've heard a newcomer's concerns as well. What say you? What do you all think?
Theodric's all for it. Theodric is for it.
Yeah, in these growing
Yeah.
times of shadow, we need to stick together. All peoples of Middle-earth.
Also, Feanor doesn't really agree. He doesn't think that it should never be a thing. He's leaning more towards that it should be like an ally that they have until they can really prove themselves as like peoples of this land, not just people who are in this land.
Well, is this party a democracy or not?
Yes. No, it's going to go in your favor. He'll go with what you guys are going.
Okay.
I mean,
But,
Theodric
like-
has the same general idea as you, but like he's rattled by the visions he had recently, and
Yeah, and
Like-
yeah,
the notes, and he's like, we may not have time for them to get to know each other before goblins are kicking down doors and burning villages.
Feanor does not know you had a horrible dream.
That's true.
Yeah.
And Jess, what was your response?
I'm inclined to say yes. obviously, like the kinship thing would need to be sorted out. Make sure they're actually like all kosher and above board. But I think, I think the lack of warriors on their part could be easily traded for some of their wealth, like if they are as wealthy as they claim to be.
Absolutely. So it's a yes.
Yeah, that's sort of my thought process.
Perfect. So your group
Short answer,
is
yes.
going to be a cumulative yes in the favor of adding Saywin to the peoples. And for me,
I'm actually gonna
yes.
go.
Okay,
'Cause
yeah.
I'm tired.
Yeah, no worries. Thank
Okay.
you so much for hanging around. I really appreciate it. We'll be closing down here pretty soon. But thank you so
Yeah.
much for hanging out. Appreciate it. I will see you next week and hopefully in some of our other streams. Everybody say bye. Bye.
Definitely.
Bye, spider. Goodbye.
Oh, now she's going. We can actually do the real stuff. Now it's just the men. No.
And Ingolmer, he says, and he sees your answer, and he nods and says, both sides make great points. But I go with my gut, and I'm inclined to say yes. Which leaves us all eyes towards Radagast. And you can tell that he's not even concerned with the matters as of now. In fact, he's looking up at the sky. Completely distracted.
Can Valneth make a perception check or something?
Perception, each of you, perception or insight check. And tell me which one you did, because they're kind of different.
I got a 6 on perception.
Okay.
Natural 20 for a 25 on insight.
I got a 3.
Got a rock.
Feanor, you notice this, and you see that there is a... well, one, Theodric, you think that he's just an odd dude. You have no idea how to peg this guy's behavior from the conversations that you've had. He seems always distracted. This doesn't seem out of the ordinary. Feanor, you see that he is looking up at the birds, and you see that they have started being erratic as far as their flight patterns. And Valinith, you've seen this too, but you look deep and there's this, you can sense a sense of concern in Radagast's eyes. And immediately you hear what sounds like distant thudding.
Valinith perks up his ears and he says, are we expecting any more guests? I feel like I hear something in the distance.
Feanor's gonna stand if Valinith's what's going on. He's going to look towards out to where the guards are on the outer edge to see if any of them are.
Guards do not seem to be aware of anything off in the distance. This is very barely audible. But within a few moments, it becomes more and more audible, and the guards begin to hold whatever weapons they have, spears, axes, at the ready. And Ingolmer stands and grips Wolfbiter as well. And Radagast, one of the birds, flies down and whispers something into Radagast's ear. And Radagast says,
We have company.
And immediately crashing through the line are a set of 12 armored warriors, carrying the sign, a sign that Valinith, Jess, and Theodric are familiar with. The sign of Mogdred.
Yep.
And sitting upon the middle horse of these 12 guards, or not 12 guards, 12 warriors. You see this man. He's relatively large. He's a dread figure. The newcomers are clad in chainmail, and they're heavily armored, with shields bearing the sigil of Tyrant's Hill. Feanor, you are unfamiliar with this. Their weapons seem to be both well-made and well-used. And then two of the steeds, they carry a large sack that is dragging behind them. And at the head
Welcome home, good hunter.
rides a dread figure.
What is it you desire?
Oh, thanks for the raid. I appreciate it. Thanks, guys. But it holds a ride there at the head person. This man has a dread figure, and he's wearing a helm in the likeness of a dragon. And Golmar gripping his axe. He takes a step forward, and he confronts the stranger. Only woodmen and their friends are welcome here. What is everybody doing?
If he's drawn his weapon, like Feanor will. Like
Yeah.
It's not going to be like actively pointed at them, but he's going to have like taken out his bow.
Valnith looks towards Angolmer and seeing if he reacts in which way he reacts towards this.
And the way that these guys have come in is kind of halfway between where Theodric is sitting. So Theodric would probably be one of the closer ones to him, and then between Bulfrey. And so kind of it.
If they're that close, he'd have his like great spear.
For sure. But anyways, in Golmar, he says, only woodmen and their friends are welcome here. This figure, not stepping down from his horse, he removes his helm, and this dirty, black, grungy hair falls down upon his shoulder. Oh, but I am a woodman, by blood and birth. Come, don't you recognize me? Make perception checks, each of you.
19.
14.
14 as well.
Something looks very familiar about this person. You've seen him before, or at least you think you have. You called me Ingold, your son. Though men now call me Mogdred. Ingolmer, completely shaken, he stares at them. It's impossible. He lowers his axe, and he kind of places it down on the ground, solidly in the grass. Mogdred continues. He doesn't dismount his horse. None of these warriors, these soldiers, have drawn their weapons. But they are definitely, their presence alone, on horseback, making their way through the forest, is intimidation, very clearly.
Can Valnith quickly make a shadow check?
Yeah, make a Shadow Lord check for me.
Okay. See if you can sense anything.
I thought that was a feat that you can just do. Like, you didn't need to...
I have to roll for it though.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah, well,
So
he
I
really
I
did
can I can sense shadow, but I have to roll for it. That's a 14.
Okay.
14. Oh, you are unfamiliar with what is going on here, and it's making you step back a little bit. But you do sense something is off. Ingolmer's completely shaken. At this point, he actually sits back down, the axe basically still in his hand, and he just is just like staring up at his son. Mogdred continues. After all these years, I finally return home. And he smiles. And I am greeted with nothing more than a broken man. And he squints his eyes, furrows his brow, brandishing the very axe you swore to protect me with. It seems that axe is more important to you than your own son. You found that cursed thing and left me to rot. And you can tell that there's like a small hint of malice in his, basically in his expression. He
He
continues.
wields it in honor of you.
He
The
turns his head.
sacrifice that you made as a child. I should know. I'm the one that returned it to him.
Oh, I see. We're not the only guests that you have, Father. You returned this tomb. Tell me, where did you find it? I'm curious myself.
Old man, lost in the woods, had it.
Oh.
Said that he was chained in. Was it Doguldur? That he was?
Yes.
Yeah, Doguldur.
Said that he was captured and held at Doguldur. And only just in this past 2 months were we able to actually make it to Woodhall, where I restored the axe.
Oh. He thinks for a moment, long and hard. And he addresses the rest of the crowd, including you. For many years, I was also a slave in the dungeons of the Necromancer. Now I am a lord of the place that you call Tyrant's Hill, and I command many men. He points to Ameliota. You and yours would be long dead if it were not for our protection. Darkness returns to the forests, you see, if you had but eyes to see it. There are orcs in Fenbridge, and shadows stir within Doguldur. There's silence. As Ingolmer sits in the state of shock, Heartfast looks around and sees it, and he speaks up in as intimidating of a voice as he can possibly muster, but you can tell he is also shocked. What you say is troubling. But what is it that brings you exactly to this Folk-moot, other than by rudely interrupting? Mogdred looks. He smiles. He essentially puts his helm beneath his arm and he dismounts and he walks forward, his arms outstretched, not any kind of motion towards a weapon. Do you allow him to walk into the middle, Theodric? You are the immediate person as he attempts to walk. Nobody else has moved, but just him dismounting.
Theodric is going to allow him through, but he is also going to just ask, forgive me for interrupting, but I'm assuming you aren't simply here for a family reunion. I feel like the majority of us would probably appreciate it if we all cut the theatrics and just got down to brass tacks.
He shakes his head. Sounds reasonable. I mean you no harm. As I had mentioned, I am a woodman myself, by blood and birth. And he looks. What I ask, my purpose, for coming to a Folk-moot I have not been invited to. I ask for a seat at the Council of the Woodmen. I ask for tribute from the Black Tarn, wives from my warriors, and gold from the mountains. Clearly, and he smiles. Something a little bit off about the smile, but he smiles. You have no issue inviting those from distant realms into the issues of the woodmen. Elves, dwarves, and mere children. And he looks at Jess. He takes out his sword, not menacingly, but he takes out his sword and he points it over to Saywin. That stranger offered you trinkets and sweet cakes. My offer is more of the practical sort. And with a nod of his head, Modred and his followers, two of them dismount, the ones that are carrying the sacks behind them. They take it into the middle, and they upend the sacks. And out of it fall dozens of orc heads. What say you, members of the council? And he looks and he stares directly into the shocked eyes of Ingolmer, and that is where we're going to end our session for tonight.
Oh my gosh.
But
Oh,
just gotta
what the
say,
heck?
Theodric does like that tribute.
Dozens of orc heads.
Oh yeah.
It's interesting.
Wow.
We got to get to the nitty gritty of all this next session. Oh
Yeah,
my
for
gosh.
sure.
Gotta
Just
we
remind
got-
think about it.
We've got to tell them about what's her name?
Dagmar?
Dagmar.
Dagmar.
That's
Why do,
her
we,
name.
why do we have to tell them about her?
That they were searching for someone, and we can ask questions about
He,
that.
he knows
what
she's
what
searching.
this
He sent her there.
escaped prisoner.
One
We can
thing that
ask
I was
questions
thinking
about who
of
it
is they say that there was orcs at this place, which Radagast spy knew. So why would it be so important that his spy is coming back? I thought outside of character
Mhm.
is that they are keeping orcs there on purpose, and as like a thing to be like, yeah, we're totally killing them all. But
Can
more or
you
less,
point out on this map, Kyle, where Tyrant's Hill is?
So
Yeah.
Roscabel, where you guys are currently, are right here, and then right
Yeah.
here is the Black Tarn.
Black Tarn.
Tyrant's Hill is going to be right here.
Ooh, it's so close to
so-
Dolgritter.
Yeah, kind of like
It's
a
close to
bottleneck.
Durgal Dur, but it's also like in the backyard of Roscabel and the Black Tarn.
but Fedor is liking that there's a group of well-armed people here.
Yeah,
but there's
these
something
dudes like are no joke. Like these guys look like trained warriors.
Yeah.
True,
And he's
but-
liking that, but like you said, there's something off.
Yeah, we'll have to get to
Um,
the bottom of it.
Yeah,
By the way,
look, I'm-
Valineth, outside of character,
Mm.
these orc heads definitely are pinging the shadow for you.
Yeah.
This
Yeah,
is
look.
the shadow you were sensing.
I'm not a big fan of anyone who asks for wives as tribute, so yeah, giving me the bad vibes. Wives in gold. It's like, okay, you sound like the Dothraki from Game of Thrones or something.
Yeah, honestly, they're just barbarians
Yeah, right.
who've been growing through the shadow. I'm very curious though to see, because again, you gotta really decipher where the allegiance lies, because they obviously want to be part of the Woodman, but at the same time, he has such a despise for his father. Like, why would
Yeah.
you want to be a part of that?
Also,
Protecting
how-
your people can do, can make him to overcome.
how big is Mogdred on a scale of 1 to King Heartfast or Lord Heartfast?
Probably about a similar size to Ingolmer, maybe slightly shorter.
Okay.
Maybe slightly shorter than you, Theodric, slightly.
Okay. Ooh, okay.
Yeah, he's not this
Theodric
huge,
had-
imposing.
Theodric
figure.
had to maintain his
Yeah.
I'm the tallest.
No,
like,
no,
like,
see,
like Theodric,
I'm
I picture
working-
you like 6'2", where like I picture like Lord Heartfast as like 6'6", 6'7", this big towering dude.
Huge.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's probably about like 6 foot ish. So
I'm just
tall-ish.
throwing out there. So far, the only times Theatrix had like difficulty in a fair fight was with that Bjorning, who was like, like 7 foot something.
Yeah, it's true.
And
Biggins,
the
dude.
giant bandit we fought, he was like 6'4".
Mhm.
So like,
And Magellan.
And-
Don't forget that.
Megan's
I
pretty
was
tall,
already
too.
half dead. That one doesn't count.
I'm not dead.
I was
yet.
half
Okay,
dead.
if you were at full health, that would have gone very differently.
Oh, yeah. If I was exactly. I was also distraught over the death of Jalen. So like,
You don't even remember her name.
Let's
Yeah.
quickly.
Yeah,
let's
they both
quickly-
start with a J.
Yeah. Let's quickly jump into before you guys can discuss outside of stream like what's gonna happen, like all kinds of stuff. Don't go looking things up, please. I'm sure the information's out there, but Mogdred's cool. Thoughts, Valineth, about tonight's session?
Yeah, obviously the last few sessions have been leading up to this moment of the Folk-moot in this gathering of all the woodman tribes, as to say. Valineth is very curious where this is going to go. My thought coming into tonight's session was for Valineth to be very, very observant. of what's going on. Since again, he is a high elf of Rivendell, he doesn't really have any stake in any of this. The only thing that he really is focused on is just being against the shadow, if that makes sense, like for good, basically. And so upon again last session coming upon Radagast's personal spy and all this nonsense, Valnith is just very, very concerned and very questioning on what's going on. So it's interesting to see how that we ended where we ended tonight, because it gives me some time to think about the sessions moving forward and how Valnith himself is going to react to a specific situation like
I know
this.
that the session was slightly longer, but I wanted to get to specifically this point. And so the Folk-moot's not over by any means, but I wanted to get to this point to give you guys that ability to be able to think on things for some time. So
No, it was good though. I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of talking. It was one thing I really like about this campaign compared to a lot of D&D campaigns. It's not just like moving on battle. It actually deals with the politics and the ongoings of Middle-earth itself. And this is kind of like a focus in on Middle-earth that you don't really get to experience in any of Tolkien's books or the movies, because again, it's between the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit. And it's dealing with the woodmen, which are basically almost never mentioned in any of those texts and whatnot. So it's pretty cool being able to experience another side of Middle Earth, especially so close to Dol Guldur when there's so much shadow down south anyways. So it's really cool. I'm just kind of fanboying over here about it.
yeah, for sure. Theodric, what was your thoughts about tonight's session?
I think I summed it up as Theodric earlier. I'm not sure what kind of part Theodric should be taking in the Folk-moot, because, like, on one hand, he wants to speak his mind. On the other hand, he's used to just kind of, like, sitting back and listening to the plans of, like,
The lords.
not politicians, lords,
Yeah.
and just, like, not having an opinion. Like, his firm opinion was whatever Lord Esbern wants, he's happy to do, you know? So for him to be asked his opinion and be like, he's like, these are foreigners, I don't want to overstep my place or anything like that. I felt, yeah, that was kind of what he was doing. At the same time, I kind of,
God.
I feel like, oh wow. Yeah, I feel like kicking in the doors of this meeting with like 12 heavily armored dudes on horses, not the most political and diplomatic way to be like, hey, I'd like an invite, where's mine, it got lost in the mail.
Yeah.
Also, like, the reveal that his, what was it, England? What's his actual name?
Oh,
It's not England.
not England. It's oh shoot. Ingold.
Ingold. That is phenomenal. I also do want to say, though, bigger angsty teen energy. I changed my name to something edgy, Dad.
Yeah,
You didn't come looking for me,
I
Dad.
got my own place.
I'm Mogdred now. We listen to death metal and drink beer now, Dad.
Yeah, that's what his
Well,
friends were the
Tyrant's
orcs in
Hill
Dol Guldur. He had bad influence.
Tyrant's Hill is just like a big college dorm with just death metal band
You're gonna
posters
go there and
everywhere.
gonna
Why?
have,
Why
like,
do you
like
think
the-
he's
like a-
asking for wives? There's clearly no women there.
There's no chicks at Tyrant's
Except for
Hill, Dad.
Dagmar.
Yeah,
Except for
Dagmar.
Dagmar.
That's true.
She's the only one.
There's no chicks at Tyrant's Hill, bruh. No, I imagine it's just a lot of death metal over at Tyrant's Hill. No, I can't get that out of my head.
It's like,
But
how
no,
cool would that be if I had my own kingdom and like
Right.
it's called Tyrant's Hill?
Right.
Yeah, that sounds sick, bro.
It was already named that. I didn't even have to rename it.
I know, but it's just like now I'm getting the idea that he's just a college frat boy dude, bro, and I can't get that out of my head. But like, I do have to say that, like, yeah, poor etiquette to just like kick in the doors with your heavily armored men and be like, we want wives and gold, and it's like,
And a seat at the table.
and a seat at the table. It's like, okay, you could have probably gotten the seat at the table if you did this more diplomatically, and you're like, also, for him to just assume that he's allowed that, and it's like, dude, you weren't slighted. Nobody knew Tyrant's Hill had anyone there. Like, literally, when we were traveling, and Dagmar was like, yeah, I come from my lord at Torrance Hill. Engelmer was like, wait, there are people there?
Okay, I will say this. This is one thing. You remember how Kalar was when you first met him?
Yeah.
He was a messed up dude after being a prisoner in Dol
I mean,
Dur.
True. I just kind of like the idea of like, why weren't we invited? And it's like, Engelmer didn't even know you were there, and he's kind of like the regional guy who knows stuff.
True.
So
Yeah,
like,
all the questions in need of answers.
yeah,
Think about it.
that's what I've got.
Jess, what were your thoughts about it? I thought it was pretty good. I gotta cook some food. Okay, wait. I'm sorry. But Fedor, what are your thoughts?
I thought it was like interesting, and it's cool to see the different like ambitions almost of like the different groups. Like the Black Tarn not really want like as much as Feanor recognized they don't want to do it because it threatens their already small community from getting what they want. It's like it's good to see like the politics of it all, but also to see that like my time spent out exploring the what was it, the Wilderlands really is paying off at least a little bit. It's like it was a little funny for me earlier on where it's like, oh yeah, I know Feanor, yeah, he lived with us for a bit. Oh yeah, we knew Feanor, he helped us in like one of our darkest times. Yeah, sorry, we've already met Feanor. Yeah, he's a pretty chill dude.
Yeah.
Like good to like help ingratiate almost that even that little bit more to the people that don't know him, that he and his companions are well-meaning and supporting the peoples.
Definitely. Yeah, it's good. I've been like for weeks. I've been so looking forward to the session and kind of this reveal, but also just kind of because again, the Folk-moot's not over. There's still plenty to be discussed, things to talk about. But yeah, the fact that it's been so rudely interrupted is not a good thing. And so I kicking myself that I didn't put up the image earlier. Actually, I probably shouldn't have because it's just a bunch of orc heads and a dude. You'd be like, what the heck is going on here? But here you go.
It gives us a vibe
Official
of what's
art.
going on.
Yeah, official art. He's got a nice nose, so that's good. So,
Belong.
yeah, alarm. But other than that, my thoughts about tonight was exactly that. I've been really excited. Thank you, Raiders, for the raid. We did go a little bit longer, so you guys were able to jump in. That's super cool. But I appreciate everybody for sticking around. Players, as always. I am just excited to see where the adventures go. The politics at hand are very important. I don't know if I was talking to you guys about this or if I was talking to Dain separately or something else, but the one thing that I really like about these recent sessions, because you guys had your like whole Dale experience kind of like tutorial, and then you made your way through Mirkwood kind of as like your first adventure, kind of getting to know, but you guys are like kind of starting to get to know some of the little like intricacies of all of the communities at the beginning, and so where it feels perhaps like this isn't progressing like super duper fast or super far, but now you're starting to get basically involved with glances at the Beornings. You've already had run-ins with the Mirkwood elves. You've dealt with people in Dale, in Esgaroth, in all the Woodman settlements, and so like everything like in this adventure is building a foundation for you to understand the world, so you can shape it and try to actually have any kind of stake inside the world. Like if there's a threat that's happening, like you know these people, you've been there, you've explained to them, oh, the Woodmen, I don't know who they are. Like as Dain mentioned, that they're not in the Tolkien books really at all. They're like, I don't care about them. But now it's just like now it's starting to build relationships, and you're starting to wonder, who do I trust, who do I don't trust, and it's just like, yeah, it's good stuff. Politics. But yeah, adventures will start to come, and hopefully you guys aren't starving too bad for combat. It'll happen eventually.
I mean, I kind of like the fact, because I feel like most D&D campaigns are just straight combat, and so it's nice being able to have one.
It's
Go ahead.
nice not having to worry about dying for
True.
Just
while.
a little bit longer.
Look,
Yeah.
I'm just think about Mirkwood and how often we were like, are we gonna die today? We haven't had to worry about that for like 4 sessions now. It's beautiful.
That's where all my best character moments came from. Okay.
When we just setting everything on fire.
We also lost We also lost Jalen.
Yeah.
You have to crack a few eggs to make an omelet.
But we
Crack a
didn't get
few
an omelet.
hands.
We didn't
I
And
get
now
an
we got
omelet.
crazy crystal hobbit
We got a-
Sackville Baggins lady. so that's good.
Exactly. We didn't get an omelet. We got a crazy crystal hobbit.
She can't
Yeah,
even
okay,
defend
you're-
herself.
I want Jalen back.
It's okay. You guys will come to love the Sackville Bagginses.
Oh.
But with that, let's go ahead and close the stream down. Dane, any announcements before we get going here?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a normal week with normal streams this week. So we will be, I'll be streaming 2 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. Some more Octopath Traveler. We're going to be getting 2 character stories out of the way today, since I need to finish the game before our Halloween October events. By the way, guys, look forward to October. Got a bunch of Halloween things scheduled in horror games. Kyle, you don't have to worry about it. But on my side of the streams,
Baldur's Gate's
I'm going
scary.
to be doing all that. It's a little
Kind of.
scary. It's a lot of blood and
There's a
gore.
zombie
It's
man
good.
that's at my camp, so that's fun.
He needs some lotion. But
It's got
aside
the
from
cracked
that,
lips.
you got the crack lips. That's good. Normal week. So again, today at 2 p.m. I will be Mountain Daylight Time. I will be doing that Octopath Traveler 2, and then tomorrow as well at 2 p.m. I'll be doing some Octopath Traveler as well. We were supposed to have Everlast again, Kyle's original tabletop RPG that we're in the works of creating and making here at Fantasy Forge Studios. However, one of the characters is getting married on Friday, and like half of at least all the people who are in Colorado are going to that wedding. So unfortunately, we're gonna have to cancel that session. So stay tuned for the next session of that. We'll be posting in our weekly update schedule. Please join the Discord. We do a weekly schedule, and it is the time that shows is
Your
the
computer
time that your computer's set at. Yeah, so it's nice that way you're not having to like, what time is this? Is this Mountain Daylight Time? Is this Japan Standard Time where Kyle lives? Is this Australian time? Like, what time is this? You don't have to
let
worry about it.
VPNs
It should
jack
be.
you up.
Yeah, don't let it. Yeah, again, make sure you have a VPN. Whatever's there is the time that it's there for your computer, I should say. But we have that, and then we're gonna be continuing our Pokemon Nuzlocke on Saturday. So again, we're doing Let's Go Eevee, and we're doing it as like a fun interactive stream for everyone, where we play marbles to decide the name of the Pokemon that I capture, and we haven't lost yet, so that's a good thing. But then also one thing I'm going to be starting this month, because I know it's been kind of on and off, people coming and going. I want to do more community stuff, and so the last Saturday of every single month, it's going to be a longer stream. It's going to be from noon my time, so 2 hours earlier, and it's going to go 1 hour later. So it's going to be a massive stream. It's the stream at the very end of the month, the last Saturday. It's going to be a subathon type thing. So again, if you guys have subs that need to be renewed, we're going to be doing those at the end of the month. That way, it just makes it easier for everyone to deal with that. If you have subs that you've been waiting to resub, we're going to be doing that at the end of the month, which is kind of nice. So yeah, so we're going to be doing a subathon. It's going to be basically the reason I decided to do them. There's a lot of games and a lot of challenge runs that I need to do, because we're ticking off on forging our way to 1,000. Also, Octopath Traveler I need to finish before October, and I don't think I'm going to finish it in time. So we're going to be doing our first subathon, which will be the last Saturday of this month. I'm going to be playing just the completion Octopath Traveler, which will be really fun. And then yeah, in preceding months it's going to be other stuff. So obviously for October, that's Halloween, right? So we're going to be doing our big Halloween stream on the last Saturday of the month too. So look forward to that. That's just a little bit minor change in the schedule, but aside from that, come join Kyle next I guess Sunday my time, Monday morning his time, since he lives in Japan, for some Baldur's Gate. Yeah, it'll be really fun, and
3.
yeah, all that kind of stuff. Baldur's Gate 3, yeah.
There's other ones.
But yeah, we got lots of fun stuff for the rest of the month, and check out our social medias. Again, we have our Instagram channel, which is TCG related, and I'll be uploading a lot more on that coming soon. So if you like TCG stuff, and that doesn't just include Pokemon, that includes, for example, we've been opening Fire Emblem Cypher, which is a Japanese exclusive set, and I'm going to be opening like Final Fantasy Opus, those sets, also Pokemon as well, of course. We'll be opening on that channel, or on that, I guess, Instagram page. And then all of our other social medias, especially our Discord. Our Discord's the hub for everything. We have movie nights on Mondays. It's a really good time. So come join us for everything. And what else? Aside from that, we have an amazing sponsor. Again, Die Snacky is a a small family business based in Japan, and they sell Japanese luxury sweets and treats. And currently, they are finishing up their Omatsuri box, which is their their
Summer
seasonal
box.
box that they have. Yeah, so their summer box. And they're gonna be moving on to their fall box. But if you want like Japanese summer food, it's really cool. I posted my opening because I ordered a box. I posted mine on the Instagram page, so go check that out. And aside from that, guys, I mean, they've got a bunch of other really cool stuff. They offer free international shipping. And again, if in checkout, if you say Forge sent you, there's a little message section. It helps us out at Fantasy Forge Studios a lot, but it also helps out a small family business in Japan as well. So that's pretty cool. So go check them out. They're awesome. They got lots of really fun stuff. So, and it's pretty good price, especially if you don't want to buy a trip to Japan. It's the second best thing. So
True.
yeah, let's go from that. That's it.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for us for tonight. But you guys have an amazing rest of your days. Start to hopefully a good later half of the week. And I will catch you guys next Monday. You'll catch Dain much sooner than that. But until then, may the road go ever onward and onward. Bye, guys.